Chapter 385, Sea Ape Island. Han Li gently held the pill between two fingers and brought it to his eye, carefully examining it before revealing a faint smile. It seemed that the fight to flee wasn't a wasted effort. As he had acquired several dustfall pills, the odds of his core formation should somewhat increase. After properly putting away the medicine pills, Han Li carefully stored away the bottle in his storage pouch. Now, Han Li had to find a location that was both safe and had an abundance of spiritual qi. So long as either Han Li or Crooked Soul managed to reach core formation, they would have a chance when fighting against any core formation cultivator that wished to hunt them down. However, core formation wasn't something that could be accomplished in a short amount of time. Other than genius cultivators blessed with heavenly spiritual roots, other cultivators require enough spirit medicines and time to break through the bottleneck. Spirit snow water and liquid heaven fire are two such materials required for cultivators that wish to form their core. While they aren't required in order to succeed in core formation, the success rate without them was so minuscule that it would cause cultivators to spit blood. Although there wasn't an official statistic, it is said to be less than 1%. Apart from these two items, many other spirit medicines can also be taken to increase the odds of success for core formation, but none of them were as effective as spirit snow water and liquid heaven fire. Unfortunately, taking multiples of these medicines would prove to have no effect. It wasn't like refining qi during meditation, where it was optimal to take appropriate amounts of other spirit medicines. In fact, it would most likely prove to have an opposite effect. But what was laughable was not only were the effects of the other medicines far inferior to that of the spirit snow water and liquid heaven fire, they required herbs that were more rare and harder to find. In addition, these medicines would often require several thousand-year-old herbs to create. Ordinary cultivators wouldn't have such mighty spending power. At best, they would have one or two luxurious additions to their spirit snow water and liquid heaven fire. Of course, this didn't pose a problem for Han Li. Apart from the pills requiring a few rare spirit herbs he didn't have or had never heard of, he had refined over 10 spiritual medicines to aid in core formation, all of which were now safely stored inside his storage pouch. But what was most surprising was that these medicines didn't require innate truth to be refined. They were simply mixed together like ordinary medicines of the mortal world. In addition, these pill formulas could easily be found in ancient records. When Han Li initially found them, he was stunned for quite a while. Even to this day, he was still left puzzled. As for the 5 dustfall pills he acquired, they were extremely rare supplementary medicines that all cultivators nearing core formation desired. However, even with the aid of these many medicine pills, the probability of success in core formation wouldn't be vastly higher than those without. According to Han Li's research, his mind-bogglingly extravagant method of core formation would only raise his odds of success by 10% at most when compared to other cultivators. On the whole, taking medicine should be a bit better than not, but this was only Han Li's opinion. Additionally, core formation wasn't something that could be concluded in merely 10 days or half a month. According to ancient records and the core formation experience of Li Huiyuan, Han Li's former master, it would take about 3 to 5 years to conclude. The specific duration would depend on an individual's own aptitude. From here on out, he would have to avoid feeling great emotion, avoid any battles with others, and find a place with acceptable spiritual qi. Thus, it was imperative that Han Li found an island to seclude himself and attempt core formation, even if it were somewhat sparse regarding spiritual qi. With that in mind, Han Li took out a jade slip that contained a huge map of the seas with Stalwart Star Island and the other 2 main islands at the center. Han Li submerged his spiritual sense into the slip for quite some time. After eventually finding his approximate location, he then searched for remote, small-sized islands. After the time it took to cook a meal, Han Li withdrew his spiritual sense from the jade slip with a thoughtful expression. He looked at the seas and the blazing sun in the sky before finding his desired direction, turning into a streak of white light and disappearing across the horizon. Along the way, Han Li stopped at a few desolate islands to recover his magic power. He avoided any islands that were inhabited, as he was fearful of leaving behind traces for anyone pursuing him. After changing direction several times, Han Li finally found the region he wished to travel to and quickly flew off. 2 months later, Han Li and Crooked Soul appeared above a remote island. This island wasn't nearly as large as Stalwart Star Island, but it was quite a bit larger than ordinary small islands, barely large enough to be considered a medium-sized island. It was the Sea Ape Island that Han Li had endured a long, arduous journey for. The island had few mortals and no cultivators above chi condensation, along with no island lord to speak of. It was a place of freedom where everyone could come and go as they pleased. As for the island's name, the nearby seas were occupied by the particularly strange low-grade demon beast, sea apes. This demon beast was almost entirely the same as a common ape, apart from its ability to use the low-grade water arrow magic technique and its considerable intelligence. By adulthood, it was nearly as intelligent as an 8-year-old child, and cultivators are fond of capturing them to act as workers for their immortals' cave. Although sea apes are considered demon beasts, they are capable of being easily subdued by 6th-layer chi condensation cultivators. As such, a few small ships would arrive annually, hiring low-grade cultivators to capture and sell the beasts. There were a few small merchants that had collectively set up a formation spell on the island and had established a long storefront that bought living sea apes year-long. Every so often, a ship would arrive and leave with a large quantity of sea apes. As such, the island became a gathering point for low-grade cultivators striving to acquire spirit stones. But after a formation spell was established, rogue cultivators came to Sea Ape Island for long-term residence as it contained a massive spirit vein of fair quality. Although the spirit vein couldn't be said to be exceptional, it was so large and broad that the entire island was suitable for low-grade cultivation. As for spirit wells or any other dense areas of spiritual chi, Sea Ape Island was largely lacking when compared to other islands. Thus, it didn't invite conflict with any high-grade cultivators. With sparse spiritual chi and the mere local specialty of sea apes, it naturally escaped the notice of greater powers and became a free land of low-grade cultivators. Although a foundation establishment or core formation cultivator would occasionally arrive at the island, they were mostly just passing through. This island made for an exceptionally good place for Han Li to hide and undergo core formation. 2 days later, Han Li stood on the peak of some desolate mountain on the island. As he gazed at his newly created temporary cave dwelling, he felt great satisfaction. Apart from a simple medicine garden and 2 secret rooms, there weren't any other complex designs. Han Li used a formation tool set to lay down an ordinary concealment formation spell at the cave's entrance, and carefully released his 2 bludgeoned spiders from his storage pouch, setting them to guard the entrance of his cave. Having undergone years of nurturing, the 2 white spiders had grown to the size of his head and had ascended 2 grades, becoming high-grade 1 demon beasts capable of easily dealing with ordinary chi condensation cultivators. Han Li had left all of his other wondrous bugs behind at his true immortals cave on Minor Expanse Island. Han Li guessed that those who sought to either silence him or avenge Elder Gu would definitely search his immortals cave at Minor Expanse Island. Although the false and true immortals cave were concealed by 3 great formations, they wouldn't be able to withstand a core formation cultivator's attacks for long. As for his false immortals cave, it would undoubtedly be revealed. But according to Han Li's estimations, there was a 50% chance of his true immortals cave remaining hidden. This was because the passageway to his true immortals cave was concealed by mortal mechanisms rather than any easily perceived formation spells. Its entrance was cleverly blocked by a huge, engraved stone chair. If someone were to only inspect his false immortals cave, Han Li was completely confident that they wouldn't find anything amiss. But if a particularly meticulous examiner were to come, it may prove unfortunate. After all, the other mountain contained wondrous bugs with a unique aura. It definitely wouldn't be concealed from the strong spiritual sense of a core formation cultivator. Although Han Li was unwilling to let go of the wondrous bugs he hadn't been able to tame, he could only resign himself to fate. Even if they weren't fed for 6 years, they should still be able to survive. Such a situation had occurred before. With those dim thoughts in mind, Han Li and Crooked Soul each entered their own respective rooms. Han Li meditated for several days in his hidden room before taking the spirit medicines. After reaching his peak state, he took out a small bottle of liquid heaven fire. He lifted his head and placed a few drops into his mouth before hastily putting away the bottle. He then closed his eyes, waiting for the medicinal power to flare. Shortly after, Han Li felt his meridians start to scald. His true origin had turned into something like boiling water and started to quickly flow through his meridians. Han Li was initially dumbstruck, but he hastily took out an unknown spiritual medicine and instantly swallowed it down. Afterwards, he started to cultivate the Azure Essence sword art in an attempt to break through his bottleneck. The day that Han Li broke through to the 7th layer would be the day that Han Li reached core formation stage. Before this, Han Li had instructed Crooked Soul in the neighboring room to also take the liquid heaven fire and other spiritual medicines with his spiritual sense. The divine bloodlight that Crooked Soul cultivated was considered a quick success Devil Dao cultivation art. Normally, there would be no possibility of core formation, but with the 5 elements blood cores, his chances of core formation were the same as Han Li's. Crooked Soul didn't use a cultivation art to form a core. He instead swallowed the 5 elements blood cores and refined the core's power to form a fiend core. But in contrast, as his core formation process was much simpler than Han Li's, Han Li didn't need to pay further attention to Crooked Soul after giving out his orders. Although Han Li's success in core formation was uncertain, he was still going to make a serious attempt. Even if he were to fail, he would accumulate a large amount of experience for his next attempt. With that thought, Han Li gradually shut out all sense of the external world and deeply sank into bitter cultivation. At that moment, Han Li became completely oblivious to both time and the outside world. Time passed day by day, as springs passed and winters arrived. 4 years later, Sea Ape Island was quite lively and disordered. There was a faint atmosphere of excitement present in the island city and the docks. At the time of noon that day, on a remote mountain on the island, a scene occurred that left a cultivator in secluded cultivation dumbstruck. He saw the faraway cloudless dark blue skies suddenly filled with clouds and wind. A dense black cloud had appeared out of nowhere, enveloping some barren mountain. With flashes of silver lightning and claps of deafening thunder, it appeared as if a crazed serpent was wildly dancing. At that same time, the heaven-earth spiritual chi from all around the barren mountain started to revolve around it with a long cry. A huge vortex spanning 2 kilometers formed underneath the black clouds, thoroughly sucking away the spiritual chi from over 10 kilometers away and leaving the nearby rogue cultivators in great astonishment. They all walked out of their places of cultivation and hastily flew towards the barren mountain. Although these cultivators were ignorant and ill-informed, many of them realized that this astonishing scene was clearly caused by a senior succeeding in core formation. There was another core formation cultivator that appeared in the scattered star seas. However, it was extremely surprising to the rogue cultivators that someone would attempt to form their core in an area with such sparse spiritual chi. As they felt both awe and admiration, they wanted to see the result. They even had the faint hope of forming some sort of connection to this senior. Perhaps they could actually become his disciple. Without waiting for them to arrive, the distant vortex had already absorbed enough spiritual chi, and with the huge cry of a phoenix, the vortex collapsed, scattering its remaining spiritual chi. The scattered spiritual chi then faintly shined with rainbow light, creating a beautiful sight. Afterwards, the cloud dispersed, the lightning and thunder disappeared, and everything returned to normal, returning to fine sunny weather. At that moment, those rogue cultivators that flew near the barren mountain suddenly heard an extremely cold voice. Those that approach this mountain without permission will die. Those grim words were completely emotionless, causing the many low-grade cultivators nearby to grow pale. They all suddenly stopped and looked at each other. It was quite obvious that this senior who succeeded in core formation did not wish for anybody to disturb him. After glancing at each other for a while, they all had no intention of disobediently moving forward and silently left. Not long after, the news of a cultivator having just reached core formation had spread throughout Sea Ape Island, leaving those who had been unaware shocked. They were extremely puzzled as to why a cultivator would choose to undergo core formation at Sea Ape Island. Soon after, a huge amount of low-grade cultivators started to create new immortals caves at the center of the barren mountains. Although the core formation cultivator had given a warning, and they didn't dare to disobey and approach too closely to the mountain, the rogue cultivators all chose to cultivate nearby in hopes that they may perhaps meet him. For a time, the nearby lands were flourishing with people. But unbeknown to them, the barren mountain had long been abandoned, and the core formation cultivator in question was flying in the sky about 1,000 kilometers away. He had a tranquil youth flying with him, Han Li, who had failed to form his core. As Han Li glanced at the meditating Crooked Soul, his face was calm despite feeling joy in his heart. In truth, He had left seclusion about a year ago after having taken spiritual medicines and meditated for 3 years. He couldn't help but give up. This attempt at core formation had definitely failed, as there wasn't the slightest trace of his true essence solidifying. As such, he stopped cultivating and focused on assisting Crooked Soul in core formation. Along with the forceful assistance of several other spirit medicines, Crooked Soul met a massive success a few days before and eventually formed a fiend core. This extremely smooth process left Hanley quite surprised and beyond happy. After Hanley shouted at the rogue cultivators that came to look, he immediately abandoned the Immortals' cave and secretly brought Crooked Soul away from Sea Ape Island. He now wanted to return to Minor Expanse Island and see whether or not his true Immortals' cave had been discovered. He was confident that even if his pursuers were patient, there would be no way that they would have a core formation cultivator standing watch at Minor Expanse Island. If it was unguarded, he would take away all of the wondrous bugs from his true Immortals' cave and fly far away, completely abandoning the Southwest Sea. With the scattered star seas being extremely large and Crooked Soul having an early core formation cultivation, Hanley would surely be able to find a suitable location. In addition, although Crooked Soul wasn't able to use the green brilliant sword, due to his mismatching spiritual roots, he was still able to barely make use of Elder Gu's magic treasure, the immemorial bowl. Even if he wasn't able to completely refine the treasure and make complete use of its might, he was still able to use the magic treasure to fight against other core formation cultivators. Besides, he had also handed over the small golden sword treasure talisman and the golden skull treasure talisman to Crooked Soul. As for the small saber talisman treasure, Hanley kept it for himself. With Crooked Soul's core formation cultivation, he would be able to activate the treasure talisman at a much greater speed and attack enemies in an instant, making up for his deficiencies of not being able to make complete use of a magic treasure's might. With that in mind, Hanley drove his divine wind boat at its greatest speed, turning into a streak of white light flying in the direction of Stalwart Star Island. A month later, Hanley and Crooked Soul appeared once more above Minor Expanse Island. After searching through Minor Expanse Island with his spiritual sense and finding no cultivators present, he and Crooked Soul entered the island through the dock and flew towards the mountains containing his Immortals' cave. Although he was still far away from the mountains, Hanley's spiritual sense had already examined them ahead of time. Hanley was dumbfounded. Not only were both his true and false Immortals' caves untouched, but the 3 spell formations he had placed down were as well. This was truly beyond his imagination. Upon this strange discovery, Hanley became even more vigilant and stopped the divine wind boat at a distant location. He didn't enter the formation spell. Instead, he gloomily shifted his gaze around. In the end, he discovered there was nothing odd about the mountains. Hanley lowered his head and muttered to himself for a moment, and suddenly stamped down on his divine wind boat and started flying into the formations with a raised brow. The formation spells were exactly the same as they were 4 years ago. After further hesitation, Hanley entered his Immortals' caves. He didn't care about the false Immortals' cave in the short mountain. Instead, he directly entered his true Immortals' cave and headed towards the secret room housing the wondrous bugs. When Hanley arrived in front of the secret room, his jaw dropped. The scene before him left him stunned. Hanley had kept his wondrous insects in several tens of concealed stone rooms of differing sizes. Fearful that they would escape, he had set up a small formation in each of them so that they wouldn't break down the walls. According to Hanley's thoughts, as these wondrous bugs were young despite having high rankings, these ordinary restrictions should be enough to contain them. But now, his formations were no longer present and the stone doors were filled with hexagonal-shaped holes. Hanley was aghast and willed Crooked Soul to take a large step forward and open the nearest stone door, revealing a completely empty room devoid of life. Hanley let out a light sigh. Although he had already prepared himself, he still felt rather depressed. After sweeping his gaze over the room, he turned around to look at the stone door. Then he wordlessly walked out and squatted in front of the broken door. The stone door was very strangely damaged, with small holes of similar sizes densely scattered across it. But what Hanley didn't understand was why the holes were so rough, unlike the smooth cuts magic tools would produce. Hanley wrinkled his brow and slowly stood up. He slowly shut his eyes and swept his spiritual sense throughout the rest of the rooms. Having found that the others' rooms were the same, Hanley felt quite a bit of heartache. But suddenly, his face moved. He opened his eyes to reveal a cold glint and walked towards a different hidden room. The room was also empty, but Han Li entered without any hesitation and crouched, picking up something from the limestone floor and placing it in his palm. He then brought it up to his eye and saw that it was a bean-sized insect shell that twinkled with a silvery light. It was very beautiful and appeared to be entirely created out of silver. Han Li then touched the insect shell to find that its shell was extremely smooth and very hard. After lowering his head in contemplation, he was certain that this wasn't the insect shell of anything he was raising. Han Li's face grew solemn, and he narrowed his eyes. From the center of this room, Han Li started to search every inch of his immortal's cave with his spiritual sense. Han Li was confident that he'd be able to find something. After a moment, Han Li made a surprising discovery in his medicine garden. A sparkling silver sphere hung on the thick trunk of a flower tree, an undoubtedly recent addition to the immortal's cave. Han Li called out to Crooked Soul and gloomily walked towards the medicine garden. The silver sphere wasn't very large and was only the size of the head of a small child, but its sparkling, bewitching silver light was extremely eye-catching. Han Li stood at the medicine garden's entrance and attentively stared at the silver sphere in silence. He felt that he had heard of this silver sphere before, but he couldn't recall anything about it at the moment. Regardless, he was certain that this object was related to the silver insect shell he had previously found. Insect shell, Han Li's mind suddenly thought of something. He hastily patted his storage pouch, and a green jade slip appeared in his hand. This was the document of detailing the insect cultivation experiences of the controlling spirit cultivator that previously occupied Crooked Soul's body. After submerging his spiritual sense into it, Han Li immediately found that the description of a rank 12 insect seemed relevant. Gold-devouring beetles rank 12 amongst the wondrous bugs, travels in vicious swarms. It loves to eat other wondrous bugs and is adept at consuming the 5 metals one. 5 metals, gold, silver, copper, iron, and tin, and heaven-earth spiritual chi. They also cannot tolerate heat or cold. It is extremely vicious and tends to amass into a sphere. It tends to perch on spiritual trees. Jade and wood are capable of capturing it. Spider-type wondrous bugs are capable of restraining it. After reading through the passage several times, he felt pleasant surprise and couldn't help but take another look at the silver sphere. Although there weren't detailed instructions for raising this wondrous bug, he was completely sure he would have been willing to trade all those wondrous insects ranked lower than the golden-backed demon mantis for it. According to what the jade slip said, the gold-devouring beetle was capable of eating through anything, apart from jade or wood. As such, seizing them is quite difficult, but Han Li fortunately had 2 blooded spiders. Although they were ranked far lower than the gold-devouring beetles, they should still be able to restrain it. The jade slip had mentioned that newly hatched silver-gold devourer beetles are especially vulnerable to spider-type magic beasts ranked at least high grade 1, much like his own 2 spiders. However, he first wanted to test whether this insect was as vicious as described in the jade slip. Crooked Soul stepped forward in large steps and stood in front of him. Crooked Soul then emitted a blood-red light and opened his hand before suddenly flying over in a streak of red light. He ended up grabbing the sphere without any trouble, and it didn't show any reaction in the slightest. Han Li stroked his nose and felt slight disappointment. The controlling spirit sect cultivator had bragged about this insect's ferociousness, but why was it so slow? After a moment of hesitation, Han Li had Crooked Soul test it using other methods. With an ominous glint flashing from Crooked Soul's eyes, he waved his hand, and a green magic art struck the blood light surrounding the silver sphere. Suddenly, the blood light gradually turned purple and quickly combusted into an impressive devil fire. The bewitching devil fire roasted the silver sphere. Eventually, the silver sphere appeared as if it were made from sand and started to break into specks of silver, producing a humming noise. Han Li carefully looked at it and saw that the silver specks were soybean-sized flying insects. Apart from sharp teeth that could be seen with the naked eye, they appeared exactly the same as a common beetle and didn't seem noteworthy in the least. Han Li was confused. Was this not the gold-devouring beetle? Could he have been mistaken? But after looking at them for a moment more, Han Li was stunned. Crooked Soul's devil fire wasn't burning the beetles at all. Not only were they unscathed, but incredulously, they were eating the devil fire at an extremely fast pace. In the blink of an eye, half of the violet flame had disappeared. After recovering from his surprise, Han Li was wild with joy. He instantly opened the leather bag at his waist and released his 2 blooded spiders with a flash of light. Without any hesitation, he gave the order to capture them alive. The instant when the final flames of the devil fire were eaten away by the gold-devouring bugs, his two spiders shot out a shining white liquid from their mouths that turned into two 3-meter-wide nets. They were much different than ordinary webs. Their extremely finely woven webs left gaps too small for the silver beetles to escape. The gold-devouring beetles detected danger and immediately turned into silver arrows, fiercely attempting to shoot out of the web. Poo-poo. The two spider webs firmly held against the assault from the silver arrows, turning the web into a ball and causing the gold-devouring beetles to grow frantic. After releasing a deafening screech, they started to tear at the spider webs with their teeth, intending to break free of the spider web and escape. The two spiders gave them no such opportunity and continued to spew out mouthfuls of white liquid. In the blink of an eye, the beetles were trapped in a huge ball of webs. Hanli knew that the spider webs wouldn't be able to trap the gold-devouring bugs for long, so he hastily took out a jade box and quickly jammed the ball of webs into it. Afterwards, he closed the box and placed it into his storage pouch. Normally, demon beasts could only be contained in a specialized spirit beast pouch. Otherwise, they would face suffocation from the lack of air in an ordinary storage pouch. However, high-ranking wondrous bugs were different as they had incomparable vitality and could survive in a storage pouch without air. Otherwise, that controlling spirit sect cultivator definitely wouldn't have carried so many of his insect larvae in his storage pouch. Naturally, if he truly wished to use the beasts to fight, a specialized bag for spirit beasts would be best. Not only could he summon them easier, but it would also be more convenient to train them. Most importantly, the specialized pouch was able to store demon beasts at a reduced size, where ordinary storage pouches while incapable of shrinking living things. Thus, even if it were a wondrous bug demon beast, they would still have to be stored in a spirit beast pouch if they were too large. Having put away the jade box, Hanli swept his spiritual sense through his immortal's cave once more, fearful that he had missed something. Apart from discovering numerous dense, small holes in his storeroom, Hanli didn't discover anything else. Those small holes should have been marks left behind from when the gold-devouring beetles dug into his immortal's cave. Since Hanli no longer dared to stay behind in this immortal's cave, he immediately left and soared off after retrieving his 3 magic formations. Chapter 388, Crooked Soul's Devilish Mind. After flying about 5 kilometers away from Minor Expanse Island, Hanli's expression suddenly darkened, and he stopped his divine wind boat. "Don't hide, reveal yourself," Hanli spoke calmly while facing forward. "Yi!" A cry of surprise came from an empty area. With a flash of rainbow brilliance, 8 Foundation establishment cultivators appeared not far in front of him. "Hanli, in order to acquire Dustfall pills, you and Crooked Soul killed the Tail Star Island Lord's disciple and the other cultivators involved. Now, we've come as enforcers by order of our Island Lord. You are to quickly enter our custody so we may deliver you to Island Lord Jantai for punishment." A late Foundation establishment cultivator among the group proudly yelled to Hanli. In order to fool the others, Hanli and Crooked Soul had restrained their own cultivation. As a result, the group had misjudged their cultivation and appeared carefree. Although they were somewhat surprised that Hanli had discovered and ruined their ambush, with their superior cultivation and numbers, they should be able to easily handle them. As a result, they were careless and took a blunt, direct approach. After calmly sizing them up, Hanli insipidly said, "You are cultivators from Stalwart Star Island. Do you have any evidence that I killed those other cultivators?" Upon hearing this, a white-haired old man among them was stunned for a moment before sneering and saying, "What? You still wish to quibble against the testimony of the 6 United Palaces Elder Meow? Don't get your hopes up. Our Island Lord has already said that you two are extremely crafty and that we are to immediately destroy your cultivation." Hanli's expression slightly changed. With a face covered in a layer of icy intent, he said, "Destroy our cultivation. Does your Island Lord not intend to resolve this matter with us?" "He, you two have fled in guilt for several years. The evidence has long been collected. What is there to resolve? Everyone go. Let's bring these two back for a reward." The white-haired old man turned his head and impatiently called out to the others with wide eyes. Suddenly, the cultivators acted without speaking any further, releasing their magic tools towards Hanli in streaks of overbearing light. Hanli watched on with his eyes wide open. How was this possibly intending to destroy his cultivation? It seems they were gazing at him with killing intent and intended to eliminate him. Although he didn't know whether or not there was something amiss, Han Li had no choice but to get rid of these cultivators. Crooked Soul, kill them. Don't allow a single one to escape. While Han Li's voice wasn't loud, it was colder than ice. Crooked Soul, who had been standing motionlessly behind Han Li, silently stepped forward and released an astonishing blood-red light. After a moment, his entire body was enveloped in a blinding sphere of light. Then, with a soft hiss, a yellow light flashed underneath Crooked Soul's feet, and he shot towards the approaching magic tools. With several flashes of light, the incoming magic tools' radiance disappeared, and they were instantly enveloped by a 100-meter-wide barrier of blood-red light, becoming completely sluggish. Crooked Soul appeared at the center of the blood-red light and expressionlessly formed a hand incantation, spitting out the word, "Restrain." Suddenly, the magic tools moved forward and shot toward Crooked Soul's side with complete obedience. With a wave of his sleeve, they disappeared. It seemed he had collected them. Crooked Soul then expressionlessly turned his attention to the group of enforcers. The scene had left them dumbstruck. Core Formation Cultivator. He's a Core Formation Cultivator. With Crooked Soul's true cultivation unveiled, the cultivator who shouted this turned pale. The others were equally aghast, but two quick-witted cultivators immediately turned around and hurriedly rushed off. Their leader, the white-haired old man, no longer held a trace of arrogance. Only an expression of disbelief remained on his face. Acting under Han Li's orders, Crooked Soul couldn't possibly allow anyone to escape. His eyes grew as scarlet as blood while he emotionlessly gazed at the two that were fleeing. He wordlessly raised his hands and shot out scarlet red beams which moved at an extreme speed. In the blink of an eye, the beams of light had already caught up to them. One of the cultivators wore a sparkling earth-yellow armor, and the other cultivator was wrapped in an obviously exceptional blue chain of light. But with just the slightest touch of the light beam, both the magic tools and the cultivators were turned to ash, extinguishing any thoughts of escaping by the other cultivators and leaving their faces deathly pale. The white-haired old man was terrified and hastily shouted, "Senior misunderstands. This was all a misunderstanding." Crooked Soul didn't pay attention to any of his evasive words. With a tremble of his shoulders, the blood light separated from his body and flew off, forming a large blood cloud above the group of enforcers. Then, with a wave of his hand, he released a streak of purple light that seemed to ignite the blood cloud as if it were a spark striking oil. Suddenly, the sky was filled with purple flame, and the cultivators were suppressed from every direction. The cultivators below all displayed expressions of despair, as they each released their defensive magic tools while strenuously begging for mercy. But under the ice-cold gaze of Crooked Soul, the purple devil flames turned all of the magic tools and cultivators into dust after just a short moment. Crooked Soul's figure blurred and reappeared, holding all of their storage pouches in his hand. Han Li had already fetched the storage pouches of the two who had fled and flew back to Crooked Soul's side. "Let's go. It will become troublesome if any core formation cultivators were to arrive." Han Li looked in every direction before muttering as if he were both talking to himself and Crooked Soul. After Crooked Soul silently returned to the Divine Wind boat in a blur, Han Li immediately set off, flying far away as the Divine Wind boat became a streak of white light. Not long after, a blue and red streak of light flew over from the direction of Stalwart Star Island, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived at the area where Crooked Soul had killed the enforcers. Once the blinding radiances faded away, an old man with a devious expression and a middle-aged man that emitted a gray chi appeared floating in the air. "It should be here. The spiritual chi fluctuations haven't yet disappeared. It seems the killer left recently," the middle-aged man gloomily said. One of the enforcers that had been on duty at Minor Expanse Island was the middle-aged man's disciple. When his disciple had died, a soul tablet created from secret techniques had revealed a dark omen. The middle-aged man instantly discovered that his disciple had encountered mishap, but he was currently a guest at his good friend's Immortals cave. They had flown over as fast as they could, but he hadn't expected that he'd be too late. After pointing in the direction that Han Li fled, he slowly said, "Island Lord Yuan. He should have fled in that direction. I will use the transient tracer technique to investigate for a moment. If we chase after the killer, there is a 30% chance likelihood we will be able to stop him." "All right, if we both give chase, we will be certain to stop the killer." The middle-aged man's body flourished with gray chi and revealed a sinister expression. According to the collision of spiritual chi in the area, it seems the killer should be a core formation cultivator. Although he acted alone, there is no way of knowing whether he is accompanying other cultivators. Does fellow Taoist Yuan truly wish to clash with cultivators of similar strength over a common disciple? The old man suddenly changed the topic and earnestly attempted to dissuade the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was initially stunned upon hearing this, but he soon replied with a displeased face, "Don't tell me that my disciple died in vain. If this were to get out, then wouldn't I be marked as a coward? Apart from me, who else would know of it? Not only was the killer a core formation cultivator, but since he dared to casually kill near Stalwart Star Island, he definitely isn't someone from the Southwest Sea. Naturally, there won't be any drivel spoken about it, and as for me, I'm not someone who spouts gossip. As such, so long as we return and say we had arrived too late, then this matter can be laid to rest. Otherwise, you would be doing battle with an unknown cultivator of the same rank for a common disciple. The risk absolutely isn't worth it." After chuckling for a moment, he expressed disapproval. Having heard this, Island Lord Yuan's fury gradually disappeared, and he revealed a pensive expression. After muttering to himself for a moment, his expression became calm once more, and he cupped his hands to the old man, saying, "Many thanks for fellow Taoist Chi's warning. I cannot thank you enough. Let us return. In the future, I will treat that disciple's clan particularly well, and then I will let it be. That would be appropriate. As we are those who pursued the immortal Tao for such a long time, our lives are even more precious. If we are to brave danger, then it must come at a sufficient price," the old man said while concealing a sinister smile. However, these enforcers were to keep watch on Minor Expanse Island's Immortals Cave. How were they able to provoke a traveling core formation cultivator into killing them? Could they have some relationship to the two wanted fugitives of the three main islands and the 6 united palaces? The middle-aged man quickly became perplexed despite much consideration. "Enough, it has nothing to do with us. Your relationship with the 6 united palaces is too shallow to diligently pursue those two. Since I am Deputy Island Lord and you are the Island Lord, is there any use in blindly worrying about this?" The old man snorted and wore a sour expression. After hearing this, the middle-aged man faintly smiled. Afterwards, Island Lord Yuan and the old man chatted for a moment before returning to the island. Chapter 389, Heavenly Star City and the Star Palace. Han Li had no way of knowing how that potential crisis had resolved itself. As such, he continued to act carefully and flew to the northeast, as he was now a wanted criminal and incapable of further remaining in the Southwest Sea. However, if he were to go to anywhere else, he would need a map of the area, but Han Li only had a map of the Southwest Sea. Due to this deficiency, Han Li stopped on a random island after a month of flying. Although the island wasn't large, it contained a very prosperous market city because of its location on the border of the Southwest Sea and other territories. Wanting to be careful, Han Li concealed the appearances of both him and Crooked Soul using a secret technique and even put on a cloak afterwards. As such, apart from those with a higher cultivation than Crooked Soul, they would only be able to see a vague red light with their spiritual sense. For the rest of the day, Han Li replenished a large amount of materials from the island's market city and bought many records that presented information on the circumstances of the various areas of scattered star seas along with their respective maps. He ended up spending quite a bit. There were a great number of stores on the island that were overjoyed that such a great spender arrived. Having bought all he wanted, Han Li didn't dare to linger and left the small island on that same day. While sitting on his divine wind boat, Han Li took out the jade slips one after another and carefully read through them. After an unknown amount of time, he let out a long breath, tossed the jade slips into his storage pouch, and entered deep contemplation. After carefully reading through the jade slips, Han Li possessed a general understanding of the scattered star seas. The scattered star seas were huge, but nobody actually knew how vast they truly were. As no one was stupid enough to attempt to explore its entirety, the sea maps only charted a small portion of the scattered star seas. This was a fact that all cultivators of the scattered star seas acknowledge. The sea territories that were explored were commonly referred to as the inner star seas, while the unexplored territories were known as the outer star seas. Ordinarily, when someone spoke of the scattered star seas, they were actually referring to the inner star seas. The outer star seas were also known by the frightful name of the demon seas, and was the home to inconceivably gigantic demon beasts. They were said to be no weaker than nascent soul cultivators. Low-grade cultivators that hadn't ventured to the outer star sea would have their jaws drop for quite a while upon hearing this. Records have even said that in ancient times, regardless of whether it were the inner or outer seas, demon beasts reigned supreme, and cultivators were trapped on small, solitary islands. After an unknown amount of time, the previous generations of the scattered star seas managed to slay the demon beasts one by one, making way for the development of the current inner star seas. As of today, the superpower named the Star Palace reigned over entire scattered star seas. This superpower had existed for so long that even ancient records didn't mention when it had first formed. While the origins of its creation are uncertain, some believe that it was established by ancient elders that eliminated the demon beasts. Others said that an ancient hero united the scattered star seas at the time, while other rumors are endless and equally contested. The current Star Palace had established their transcendent heavenly star city on a huge island at the center of the scattered star seas. Its two city lords, the heavenly star sages, rule the entire sect from their city. The two city lords are extremely mysterious and had never left Heavenly Star City or revealed themselves in public. As such, no outsiders had seen their true appearance. However, it is rumored that the two sages weren't late nascent soul cultivators, but instead, they were divine beings at the deity transformation stage. After all, the heavenly star sages have been famous for nearly 1,000 years. How could common cultivators live for so long? Apart from the heavenly palace and heavenly star city, there are 8 outer territories and 4 inner territories in the inner star seas. Each of the territories, 3 largest islands, serve to directly govern their respective areas. These cities were known collectively as the 24 outer star islands and the 12 inner star islands. They were all subservient to Heavenly Star City. As for the stalwart star island Han Li had stayed at, it was one of Heavenly Star City's outer star islands. With the addition of the many small subsidiary islands of the Star Islands, the Star Palace truly held quite a bit of authority. But what was most notable was that the Star Palace appointed Star Island lords through 2 methods. The 12 inner star islands were each administered by 6 people chosen by the 2 great sages. As for the 24 outer star islands, Heavenly Star City would host a centennial competition where the final victors would each become an island lord and enjoy the status of a regional ruler. As such, the centennial competition hosted at the Heavenly Star City became known as the Star Selection Assembly. Every time it convened, nearly all the high-grade cultivators of the scattered star seas congregated at the city. Some cultivators came with the dream of becoming an island lord, while others merely wished to broaden their horizon or socialize. There were even those that wished to use the opportunity to exchange medicine pills, materials, cultivation arts, and other such items. As it was considered a fleeting opportunity, Heavenly Star City was overcrowded during this time. But even without the additional bustle of the Star Selection Assembly, the Heavenly Star City was a lively city where both villains and heroes dwell. Apart from a prohibition of fighting in the cities and spirit stones taxes for long-term residences, the Star Palace left the city alone, allowing it to become a place of freedom where cultivators of all ranks could come and go as they pleased. As for wanted nefarious cultivators, so long as they didn't stir up trouble in the city, the Star Palace wouldn't take the initiative to arrest them. The great merchant clans were extremely satisfied with such a free environment and had stores set up in the city year-round. They also established their own respective auctions and even acquired many types of spirit stone generating businesses. As such, an innumerable amount of rare items flowed through Heavenly Star City from the scattered star seas each year. In addition, Heavenly Star City had another reason for attracting so many cultivators. The Star Palace had set up a transportation formation in the city that led directly to the outer star seas. So long as someone paid a large sum of spirit stones, they could teleport to many of the demon beast islands of varying sizes in the outer star sea. These isolated islands were established by previous generations and all contained spiritual chi. When one arrived at these islands, cultivators would be able to kill all sorts of demon beasts in the nearby seas and sell off the demon cores for spirit stones back at Heavenly Star City. As for the value of spirit stones, a grade 5 demon beast core could be sold for nearly 1,000 spirit stones. As for grade 6 spirit stones, the profits would be enough to fund a foundation establishment cultivator for a lifetime. As such, a significant amount of cultivators annually came to Heavenly Star City to use the transportation formation. After all, flying directly to the outer star seas without using the transportation formation would not only take an extremely long amount of time, it would also be extremely dangerous to fly unguided like a headless housefly. With that in mind, Han Li decided to go to Heavenly Star Island with nearly no deliberation. Regardless of safety or acquisition of demon cores, he felt an attraction to this city by no small amount. Of course, there were other powers of varying strength apart from the Star Palace in the scattered star seas, such as the Four Freedoms Merchant Alliance, the Devil Charm Sect, the Three Immortals Sect, Night Dragon Island, and so on. Of course, Zenith Yin Island and the Six United Palaces were significant powers as well. After Han Li silently sorted this information in his mind, he took out a map of the scattered star seas and carefully looked at it. Having decided his destination, Han Li pierced through the air, turning the divine wind boat into a white streak of light. Several months later, a white light streaked past the air above the sea. Standing on the boat was Han Li, tired from the long, non-stop travel. Such a long and arduous journey was actually a rare experience for Han Li. This was because, during his entire journey, he attempted to cultivate the great development technique while flying on his magic tool without end. From the very start, multitasking had proven extremely challenging, and a technique that divided one's consciousness to control numerous puppets wasn't exactly easy to cultivate. As he split his attention while cultivating, he had frequently made many errors. The divine wind boat would occasionally begin to fly off at an angle, leaving him unable to concentrate on splitting his divine sense. He hadn't made any progress for several days, but the old adage proved true that practice really does make perfect. After countless attempts and distractions, Han Li was eventually able to forcefully cultivate the great development technique while flying. However, Han Li had given up on multitasking and focused on flying forward while standing at the front of the divine wind boat. Half a month later, Han Li judged that he had arrived near Heavenly Star City, given the arrangement of the desolate islands he had passed, and felt his heart stir with excitement. After a short moment more, Han Li's expression slightly changed after he vaguely saw a black dot in the distance that seemed to appear huge. Han Li instantly stamped down on his magic tool, expediting his arrival. Chapter 390, Huge City. A moment later, the black dot in the distance gradually grew larger as he approached, slowly revealing a vast black shadow. Although he still couldn't see it clearly, its prominent silhouette left Han Li awed by its astonishing magnificence. When Han Li flew somewhat closer, he was able to roughly make out the contents of the shadow. It was a city, an enormous city that spanned the entire island. But what caused Han Li the greatest astonishment was that the city was entirely different than those he had seen before. It wasn't laid out on flat land. Instead, the sky-towering mountain at the center of the island served as the foundation, and the buildings were built in concentric circles around it. The bottom of the huge mountain had rows and rows of buildings that spanned to the very edges of the island, without a single gap. This was without a doubt Heavenly Star City, the largest city in the scattered star seas. From the sky, the densely packed buildings appeared as small as ants. The scene left him shocked until he was about 20 kilometers away from the island, at which point he was forced to slow down his divine wind boat. Han Li was no longer alone in the nearby sky. Streaks of light far and near started to occasionally appear, flying towards Heavenly Star City. Han Li inwardly sighed. Heavenly Star City's reputation was well deserved. Even at such a far distance away, he saw many cultivators. Once he was about 10 kilometers away, there were an even greater number of various colored lights flying about. He even saw a few huge ships beneath him, cutting through the wind and waves. But what rendered him speechless were the cultivators that chose to sail on small boats, or even ride on low-grade demon beasts on the sea, instead of flying on a magic tool. Han Li shook his head. After recovering from his awe, he accelerated into a streak of light. After a short moment, arrived at the shore of Heavenly Star Island. He had now discovered that the island was surrounded by a lofty stone wall about 100 meters high. Han Li was also able to make out that the expansive sea walls had over a dozen gates of various sizes. While there were ports intended for mortal ships and bays for resting demon beasts, the obvious majority of incoming traffic, the lone cultivators, entered the city through the small gates. As such, Han Li flew towards a small city gate in a streak of azure light. Although it was one of the smaller gates, when Han Li neared it, he saw that the gate was over 24 meters tall and couldn't help but laugh at himself with a faint smile. In front of Han Li stood a dignified, azure-clothed woman whose cultivation seemed to be mid-foundation establishment. Standing beneath the city gate, she was elegantly speaking to two white-clothed cultivators. After she handed over a few spirit stones, she casually donned a blue ring they had given her and entered the city with light steps. Han Li then calmly walked over with Crooked Soul. Do you two plan to temporarily stay here, or do you plan to take long-term residence? So it turned out to be a senior. Senior, welcome to Heavenly Star City. According to the laws of the city, core formation cultivators are allowed free long-term residence in the city. This is an identity ring. Please carefully hold on to it. The white-clothed cultivator started speaking without blinking, but halfway through, he realized Crooked Soul was a core formation cultivator and hastily took something out from his sleeve. After sizing up Crooked Soul in surprise, he hastily spoke with a respectful tone and handed a red ring over to him. This is my first time coming to Heavenly Star City. What is this ring for? Crooked Soul said with a coarse voice. The spirit ring is the certification of your status. Cultivators that only stay here temporarily wear a blue ring and only have to pay 3 spirit stones for entry. The spirit light on a blue ring only persists for 7 days. Afterwards, the ring's wearer would have to leave Heavenly Star City or go to the city gates and get a new one. Red rings are for cultivators that take permanent residence. Ordinary cultivators are required to pay 800 spirit stones for it. The red ring's spirit light is everlasting and will memorize its owner once it absorbs their blood essence. As it will only shine for its owner, there is no need to worry that others might steal it. The white-clothed early Foundation establishment cultivator gave Crooked Soul a neutral explanation and raised his hand to reveal a shining red ring on his finger similar to the one in his palm. Crooked Soul silently nodded his head and took the ring. He then dripped his blood essence on it after some slight hesitation and placed it on his finger. I must trouble fellow Taoists to give me a red ring. I also plan on staying in this city for quite some time. With a smile, Han Li took out 800 spirit stones from his storage pouch and offered it to one of the cultivators. The 2 white-clothed cultivators appeared somewhat surprised, but wordlessly took the spirit stones and handed Han Li a red ring. Han Li also dripped his blood essence onto the ring and wore it before entering the city with Crooked Soul. The streets past the gate couldn't be considered either narrow or wide. It was more than wide enough for 4 people to walk through at once, or perhaps 2 carriages. The side of the streets were lined with rows of limestone buildings. From a glance, one could tell they were mortal stores, and they had nothing worth seeing. There didn't seem to be any cultivators on the streets, with only a few mortals shopping and chatting. There was nothing present caught Han Li's interest. After a quick examination, he casually lifted his head to look at the sky and saw that a great number of lights were flying about, each indicating a cultivator soaring on their magic tool. The largest city in the scattered star seas actually didn't have any air restrictions. It was going to make things quite easy for him and Crooked Soul. Han Li then took out his divine wind boat and intended to take off before being interrupted. Sir Immortals, please wait. A man from the side of the street shouted out, walking out from a store and respectfully saluting them. He was a lean man with a slanted mustache. The 2 took a thorough look at him, but found that he was a mortal that completely lacked magic power fluctuations. Han Li revealed slight astonishment and asked with a slight frown, "What's the matter? Have I met you before?" The lean man spoke with a wide smile. "Hee. My name is Lu Er, and this is my first time meeting these 2 immortal masters." Having heard this, Han Li's expression darkened as he revealed displeasure. But without waiting for Han Li to speak, Lu Er hastily said, "This is your first time arriving at Heavenly Star City, yes?" "Certainly. These immortal masters are quite unfamiliar with the roads and circumstances of the city. Since I am a native, I know this city as well as the back of my hand. If these 2 immortal masters want to go somewhere or want to know where to handle their business, I could save immortal masters quite some trouble if I were to guide the way. My assistance only requires the payment of 2 spirit stones." With that said, Lu Er gazed at Han Li with an expectant expression. He seemed to have already made out that the youth was the master of the 2. Han Li faintly smiled and replied, "So it's Lu Er. If your assistance is to my satisfaction, I will give you 5 spirit stones, but if you waste my time, I won't give you a single one." Then, with a mysterious smile, Han Li boarded the divine wind boat without paying Lu Er any further attention. As Han Li stood on his boat, he gazed at Lu Er to the side. At this moment, the mortal's face incessantly shifted between dark and clear. After he saw Han Li gazing at him, he silently gritted his teeth and said, "All right, I will follow Immortal Master. I will definitely satisfy the Immortal Master's expectations." Han Li faintly nodded his head indifferently and tapped his divine wind boat, immediately sinking it close to the ground. Having seen this, Lu Er hastily boarded and carefully stood on it. Soon after, the divine wind boat slowly soared and flew towards the huge mountain at the center of the island. After flying for about 100 meters through the sky, Han Li turned his head towards Lu Er. He saw that, although his face revealed slight fear, he didn't show any signs of difficulty or intolerance. Inwardly nodding his head, Han Li casually asked, "It seems this isn't the first time you've flown on a magic tool. Do you frequently act as a guide for foreign cultivators?" "Previously, I've assisted 6 immortal masters. However, this is only my second time flying." Lu Er spoke with a forced smile. The wind at 100 meters in the air proved to be a bit too strong for a mortal. Having seen that Lu Er's expression had turned slightly green, Han Li faintly smiled and raised his hand. With a flash of blue light, a layer of blue mist covered the entirety of the divine wind boat, protecting the three. Lu Er's complexion immediately improved afterwards. But without waiting for Lu Er to say any thanks, Han Li inquired, "First of all, tell me where I can find a place to cultivate in peace." Chapter 391, A New Home. Lu Er blankly stared for a moment before involuntarily turning his gaze to the hands of Han Li and Crooked Soul. Having seen their red rings, he revealed a flash of sudden insight and gave Han Li a thorough explanation. "So it turned out you immortal masters intend to take up long-term residence. This matter is quite simple. Do you immortal masters see that building on Sage Mountain? If you wish to cultivate, you only have to go to there and rent a building. I've heard other immortal masters say that a natural spirit vein flows through Sage Mountain. The higher the building, the greater the amount of spiritual qi. Of course, the price increases as well. If you don't wish to rent a building and want your own personal cave residence instead, it will cost far more than renting an ordinary residence. Furthermore, regardless of whether it is a building or a cave, you will have to pay a fee every 100 years. If you do not pay when the time comes, the Star Palace will repossess the residence by force. Oh, so long as I have enough spirit stones, I'll be able to rent a cultivation area at the highest height." Han Li revealed an interested expression. Lu Er shook his head as if he were beating a drum with it and spoke with embarrassment. "Immortal master jests. That obviously isn't possible. Every circle of buildings on Sage Mountain is considered a layer, coming to a total of 81 layers. The first 50 layers are open to foreign cultivators and can be rented as a cultivation residence so long as one has the spirit stones. The last 30 layers are reserved for the elders of the Star Palace. As for the last layer, that is where the Sage's Palace 2 Lord Sages live. Nobody is allowed to enter." After a moment of thought, Han Li decisively said, "Fine, point the way. Let's find a residence first before anything else." "Yes, your subordinate follows your orders. Immortal Master should fly towards the base of the mountain. The buildings there take care of these matters." Just as he finished speaking, the divine wind boat turned into a streak of white light and flew towards the huge, distant mountain. The huge mountain had appeared somewhat near, but it still took a quarter hour of full-speed flight to reach the base of the mountain. Under the guidance of Lu Er, the divine wind boat descended in front of an imposing pavilion. There were quite a few cultivators coming and going, occasionally flying off or landing with flashes of light. After a quick examination of the area, he brought Crooked Soul and Lu Er to the towering pavilion. Upon entering, Han Li saw over a dozen cultivators. 6 of them were sitting alone at a couple of stone desks while talking with cultivators wearing white clothes. The white-clothed cultivators appeared miserable, and 2 of them were even pitifully begging. It made for a rather interesting scene, as not a single one of their expressions were the same. Han Li silently watched the scene from the side. "Sir Immortal, there is no one at the desk over there. Should we go over?" After a short moment, Lu Er carefully called out to Han Li. Han Li turned his gaze towards the recently cleared stone desk and nodded his head. But as Crooked Soul was the one to lead this time, Lu Er was left bewildered as he had recognized Han Li to be the master. "Senior wishes to rent a residence at Sage Mountain. Which layer would you like? The higher the layer, the more expensive it will be." The Star Palace cultivator examined Crooked Soul for a moment before speaking with a respectful tone. It seemed that core formation cultivators were seen with veneration regardless of the location. This was the reason why Han Li had Crooked Soul step forward. "I want a cave dwelling. Are there any available? The higher the layer the better," Crooked Soul expressionlessly said. "Cave dwelling? Senior is quite wealthy. I'll go take a look." Having heard Crooked Soul's arrogant tone, the white-clothed cultivator hastily took out a jade slip and started to search through it. "I got it. There are 3 caves on the 31st layer, 4 caves on the 39th layer, and 2 caves on the 47th layer. Here are the prices of the cave residences as well as their floor plans and capabilities. The white-clothed cultivator then placed several jade slips onto the stone table. When Crooked Soul heard this, he bluntly took the jade slips on the table and looked through them with his spiritual sense. Han Li had believed that since he wasn't lacking in spirit stones and that he could be considered somewhat wealthy among core formation cultivators, he would be able to afford the cost of a cave residence. But once he looked at the prices, he felt his heart drop. The cost of a cave residence at the 39th layer left Han Li feeling heartache, not to mention the 47th layer cave. Also, these were just the costs of merely 100 years of use. The price went up to 3,000 spirit stones, a price that was far beyond reason. Having seen Crooked Soul become silent, the cultivator seemed to have guessed what he was thinking. He explained with a smile, "Senior, although we don't dare to call Sage Mountain Spirit Vein the best in the scattered star seas, it is undoubtedly in the top 5. Cultivating at even the base of Sage Mountain is far faster than the best spot at an ordinary spirit vein. As for each layer above the 30th, cultivation speeds increase by an entire 4th. As such, the expensive price is completely worth it." Han Li frowned in response, and had Crooked Soul read through the jade slips once more. "I'll have this one." Under Han Li's command, Crooked Soul handed over the jade slips and indicated a more capable cave residence on the 39th layer. As Crooked Soul wanted to rent an expensive cave dwelling, the white-clothed cultivator swiftly responded in excitement. "Understood, that will cost 2,700 spirit stones." This time, Han Li didn't have Crooked Soul act. He personally took out 27 mid-grade spirit stones and handed them over. "This is the cave residence's authority medallion. It allows you to enter and leave the cave residence at will, but after 100 years, the medallion will be revoked. Please carefully take care of it." After taking the spirit stones, he took out a yellow medallion and handed it over to Crooked Soul. After taking the medallion, Crooked Soul wordlessly turned around and left. Han Li and Lu who hadn't dared to speak, closely followed him out. A truly astonishing price. It actually cost that many spirit stones to secure a cultivation area. After walking out of the pavilion, Han Li let out a long sigh before muttering to himself. This purchase had consumed a significant portion of his fortune. Lu stole a look at Han Li and asked with a whisper, "Is there anywhere else that you two immortal masters wish to go?" He had been greatly shocked when Han Li had spent such a huge quantity of spirit stones. Although he had seen other cultivators act as such when he had guided them, they only spent several tens of spirit stones at most. This was the first time he had seen such a big spender who could spend nearly 3,000 spirit stones in one sitting. Suddenly, Lu became even more respectful towards Han Li, now confident that he could potentially acquire an even greater reward. After all, Han Li spent money quite liberally. So long as Lu satisfied him, he was certain he wouldn't short him any spirit stones. Han Li quickly glanced at Lu and casually said, "Guide me to the city's market and give me an introduction of the larger stores." Afterwards, the divine wind boat soared through the sky in a streak of light. Half a day later, Han Li was lying on a large wooden bed with his hands cushioning the back of his head. Not long before, Lu had given him an introduction of the most important locations in Heavenly Star City. They then parted ways after Han Li gave Lu his payment. Having seen Lu depart with a delighted expression, Han Li returned to the cave residence on the 39th layer that he had paid an enormous sum for. The cave residence exactly matched what was described in the Jade Talisman. Not only was it isolated and peaceful, but it also had a large medicine garden. But what was most to Han Li's satisfaction was the abundant spiritual chi present. As described, the spirit vein in the mountain was truly beyond ordinary. His old cave residence in the heavenly south region couldn't possibly compare. All of these benefits left Han Li feeling satisfied with his purchase. The cave residence's formation spell was extremely impressive. It was no weaker than the simplified 5 elements reversal formation. Although this was the case, Han Li didn't feel at ease with just the cave's formation spell protecting him. He decided to have a short rest and would place down several of his formations tomorrow. After he finally felt his home was secure, he would have time to make plans for his future cultivation. With that thought, Han Li unwittingly fell sound asleep. He had been flying non-stop these last few months and was truly quite tired. On the morning of the second day, Han Li started to busy himself after waking up. He laid down 3 great formations outside of his cave residence and planted all kinds of spiritual herbs in the empty medicine garden for future maturation. Lastly, he went into the market city and bought a large amount of high-quality fine jade. After returning to his cave residence, he embedded the fine jade into every inch of a hidden, 40-meter-wide room. After all the surfaces of the hidden room were completely covered in jade, Han Li carefully released the gold-devouring beetles into the room. He held high expectations towards these high-ranking wondrous bugs and planned to train them well so they could assist him in the future. Wondrous bugs, exotic insects. Although monstrous spiders and centipedes aren't insects, it sounds better than calling them bugs and invertebrates. Thanks for the naming suggestion, Etvolair and Barbin. Chapter 392, Raising Bugs. Although gold-devouring beetles were among the highest-ranked exotic insects, the controlling spirit sect cultivators Jade mentioned that their physical power is very limited. Only by relying on its superior numbers would it be able to prevail. If the swarm only contained a dozen or even 30 of them, they wouldn't be too useful once they reached adulthood. Only if they were in a swarm numbering by 100,000 or several hundred thousands would they be able to display power genuinely worthy of their rank. Imagining the scene of countless beetles blotting the sky and murdering without end, Han Li involuntarily shivered. He now intended to quickly raise the gold-devouring beetles and have them bear descendants to increase their number. However, this was easier said than done. The gold-devouring beetles had only existed in ancient times in the heavenly south region and were currently extinct there. As such, the concrete details of their breeding had disappeared countless generations ago. The information contained in the controlling spirit sect cultivators, Jade only had the insect's characteristics as described by ancient records. Since there weren't any detailed methods of raising them, Han Li was left vexed for quite a while. In fact, not only were the gold-devouring beetles currently extinct, it seemed that the 30 top-ranked exotic insects were extinct from the cultivation world as well. It was only because that controlling spirit sect cultivator was a bug fanatic that he had scoured and analyzed ancient records that he arranged the exotic insects on a list. As for how reliable the front-end rankings were for the exotic insects, only the heavens knew. It was only by coincidence that Han Li was able to obtain the gold-devouring beetles, a species that should have been extinct. As these gold-devouring beetles had suddenly hatched for some unknown reason, it seemed that they had been in suspended animation on Minor Expanse Island since ancient times for some unknown reason. It was reasonable to say that mountain-splitting earthquakes and torrential storms had been unable to awaken the exotic insects. However, it seemed that the congregation of exotic insects that Han Li brought with him after building his cave residence had resulted in the beetles' miraculous awakening. The scent of Han Li's various insects must have slowly trickled down and aroused the appetite of the swarm of gold-devouring beetles. Originally, they should have attacked Han Li's exotic insects sooner, but Han Li's blooded spiders were there. As they were fearful of their natural predator, they didn't dare to venture too closely to Han Li's cave residence. Thus, they had stayed hidden on Minor Expanse Island while rigidly staring at Han Li's cave. On his last trip, Han Li had brought along his blooded spiders, allowing the gold-devouring beetles to emerge. From what Han Li saw, after those gold-devouring beetles ate all his exotic insects, they settled their nest into the cave's medicine garden. With Han Li's stealthy return, he was able to capture them in one sitting. Since Han Li didn't have knowledge about raising these insects, he could only approach it slowly and fumble about. First, Han Li tried throwing in bug food of all kinds into the room, resulting in the several hundreds of gold-devouring beetles immediately ravaging them. Han Li was delighted to find that they weren't picky with their food. However, Han Li's happiness only persisted for a few months. After feeding the beetles a great amount of food, he discovered they hadn't matured in the slightest. Han Li felt quite gloomy and was forced to think of a different method. As these beetles loved to eat the 5 metals and spiritual qi, Han Li fed them metallic items of each type separately and a few low-grade spirit stones. After devouring them, these beetles didn't show the slightest change, and Han Li deemed it to be another failure. Extremely disheartened, Han Li bluntly threw the lifeless eggs that he had acquired from the golden-back mantis into the beetle room. After eating these, the beetles finally started to display a change in their spiritual qi and appeared to be far more violent. While this caused Han Li to be pleasantly surprised, he also became rather worried. Could it be that these gold-devouring beetles would only mature after eating other exotic insects? That would be a greatly difficult problem, as he had no other exotic insects other than his blooded spiders. Helpless, Han Li bought bloody hog and sheep meat and threw it into their room. Apart from causing these gold-devouring beetles to become even more vicious, they didn't show any signs of maturing in the slightest. With no other choice, Han Li gradually matured enough spiritual herbs and started to refine spirit feed pills. Previously, Han Li had only refined pills to further progress his own magic power, so it would be his first time refining this pill. A few days later, he had successfully refined his first spirit feed pills. Han Li immediately fed the gold-devouring beetles and his 2 blooded spiders a portion of the pills. The results left Han Li both overjoyed and worried. He was happy that the spirit pills had a beneficial effect on both demon beasts and exotic insects. Unfortunately, he grew worried after seeing that the changes that occurred to the gold-devouring beetles and the blooded spider were extremely different. He fed both the 2 blooded spiders 5 spirit feed pills each. The next day, their spiritual chi had grown by a small but obvious amount. As for the gold-devouring beetles, Han Li had fed them many pills, but the effects could only be described as negligible. They only experienced a sliver of growth. He estimated that because the number of gold-devouring beetles was far too great, their growth was much lesser. This method wouldn't be capable of causing any large benefits. This swarm only numbered in the several hundreds. When he thought of the several tens of thousands he would need to display their true strength, Han Li lost confidence in continuing to raise these bugs. Having come to this conclusion, Han Li lost interest in raising the gold-devouring beetles and fed the remaining spirit feed pills to his blooded spiders. As for the beetles, he fed them a bit of insect feed every day. At this point, Han Li had already spent half a year in Heavenly Star City. In addition to rearing his bugs, Han Li shut himself in seclusion and madly refined grade 2 puppets and all sorts of talismans. As Han Li hadn't yet reached core formation, he was unable to grasp any intermediate magic techniques or refine any intermediate talismans as a result. After creating such a large amount of talismans, he acquired the benefit of having a high success rate in crafting low-grade talismans. Han Li had a success rate close to 50% for even high-grade talismans, allowing him to save a large amount of materials. Several hundred-years-old ironwood was the main ingredient in crafting grade 2 puppets. Since Han Li could quickly mature the ironwood, his cost when making a puppet was decreased by over half. For the souls that were required to refine the puppets, the Emperor of Yue's soul congregation bowl contained many feral souls that had long lost their intelligence. He bluntly made use of them as they no longer held any intelligence and had lost their qualifications for reincarnation as a result. As such, he could only regard them as common refinement materials. After finally crafting about 200 puppets of the same model, Han Li was left extremely satisfied. However, the creation of these puppets had consumed a significant number of Han Li's spirit stones. Although the cost of creating a single puppet couldn't be considered large, the cost of successfully creating 200 puppets with the addition of the cost of the materials lost during failed attempts could leave one speechless. By this time, Han Li had now been in seclusion for 2 entire years. During these 2 years, Han Li fed his blooded spiders with spirit feed pills. With the assistance of strong medicinal power, the 2 demon beasts ascended in rank, becoming peak grade 1 demon beasts. During this time, Crooked Soul had almost completely refined the immemorial bowl. Although he wasn't the magic treasure's creator and was thereby unable to merge his mind with it, he was eventually able to absorb it into his body and display 70% of its power. Han Li had previously thought about having Crooked Soul create his own magic treasure, but the materials for crafting magic treasures are truly costly. With his remaining spirit stones, Han Li feared that he wouldn't be able to acquire even the most common materials for a magic treasure. In addition, magic treasures aren't something that can be created in a short amount of time within one's soul. At the very least, it would take 30 years of bitter effort before it could display the early stages of its might, but Han Li didn't have such time to waste. His most pressing need was to acquire a large amount of demon beast cores, so that he may refine spirit medicines in preparations for the second cycle of the 3 essence revolutions technique. His actions in seclusion, whether it be raising his exotic insects or refining a great amount of puppets, were all preparations for demon beast hunting. Han Li wondered if they would be capable of hunting grade 5 demon beasts without much difficulty with Crooked Soul acting as the main force, along with the assistance of his puppets, blooded spiders, spell formations, and Han Li himself. With this in mind, Han Li finally left his cave residence and brought Crooked Soul with him to Heavenly Star City. Since he wanted to go to the outer star seas and hunt high-grade demon beasts, he he naturally required information on the demon beasts and the area where the transportation formation would take him. As such, he went to the city market hoping to get what he needed. Heavenly Star City's market was located on the first layer of Sage Mountain, and was so huge it occupied at least half of the first layer, if not more. The scope of the daily trading of materials and magic tools at this market was far greater and more prosperous than any market city Han Li had previously seen. Chapter 393, Deep Jade Island. During the last 2 years, Han Li had left seclusion several times to replenish his puppet crafting materials. Because he had been such a big spender during these trips, many store owners had become quite familiar with his face. After acquiring the information he wanted from the shopkeepers with a few inquiries, Han Li went to a bookstore called the White Gate Pavilion. As expected, the store contained collections of information on all of the demon beasts currently known in the scattered star seas. Han Li's spirits were roused, and he acquired a copy of this information for over 1,000 spirit stones. As for the information on the demon beast islands in the outer star seas, Han Li found it in an unremarkable small store. Since his objectives had been achieved, Han Li intended to return to his cave dwelling. But on the way back, he came across a shop that specialized in selling storage pouches and spirit beast pouches. Currently, he carried far too many items on his person. With his 200 puppet beasts occupying 4 of his storage pouches, he found it inconvenient to use them. Furthermore, since he planned to go out to sea to hunt demon beasts, he would need more space to collect their valuable body parts in addition to their demon cores. It would be far too wasteful to just throw them away, so it was only natural that he'd want to prepare a few storage pouches with a larger capacity. An hour later, Han Li left the shop feeling slight heartache after having spent over 1,000 spirit stones on 2 high-capacity storage pouches. Since they had nearly 10 times the capacity of his previous storage pouches, they should prove to be sufficient. Afterwards, Han Li passed by the lavish cheer auction house, the top-ranked auction in Heavenly Star City, and couldn't help but take a look inside. The details of the items up for auction left Han Li feeling truly covetous. Not only were there grade 6 demon cores, but they also had high-grade materials for magic treasure refinement, not to mention many rare goods that he had never heard of before. Unfortunately, while the items in this auction were good, cultivators such as Han Li, with only a few thousand spirit stones on hand, couldn't afford to buy anything. This was because, after any rare items entered an auction hall, their price would likely increase by over half the original value. Spirit herbs that were over 1,000 years old were rare and could be auctioned off at a high price, but Han Li didn't wish to attract any problems. After all, he may feel as if he was lacking spirit stones, but it wasn't to the stage where he was at a desperate level of poverty. As such, it would be better to avoid any unnecessary trouble. After glancing at the overly expensive auctioned goods, Han Li returned to his cave residence. A month later, Han Li had finished getting all of his affairs in order. During that time, he had particularly studied the properties and weaknesses of the outer star sea demon beasts and came up with appropriate plans of action upon encountering any of them. But one day, Han Li suddenly bursted out laughing and was dancing with joy as he held a jade slip in hand. Then, with a face full of excitement, he quickly ran out of his cave residence and flew out toward the city market. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. Han Li and Crooked Soul appeared in the Heavenly Star City's 50th layer district, standing in front of a large hall made entirely of marble. A huge 10-meter-long signboard hung up above with the golden words, Starry Sky Palace. There wasn't anybody else present outside the hall. Han Li calmly walked inside with Crooked Soul in tow. After passing through a small, short corridor, his view opened to a spacious hall that was over 70 meters wide and tall. Within the hall, there were 4 male and 1 female cultivator chatting with a white-clothed cultivator of the Star Palace. Several transportation formations of equivalent size were lined up behind them. A small stone tablet lay in front of each of the transportation formations, with the name of the transportation formation's destination. Han Li didn't pay further attention to the transportation formation, and instead swept his spiritual sense past the other cultivators. What he found left him shocked. Half of those present were core formation cultivators, and the other half were late foundation establishment cultivators. After Han Li and Crooked Soul entered, the 6 glanced at them with slight surprise. The white-clothed core formation cultivator recovered quickly despite appearing somewhat puzzled by the appearance of Crooked Soul and Han Li. The other 5 revealed joy upon seeing the 2 arrive. These 2 fellow Taoists also wished to go to the Demon Beast Islands. How about joining us in using the same teleportation and splitting the cost? The charming woman that appeared 30 years old suddenly spoke with a sweet smile. Hanli stared blankly for a moment and didn't immediately respond. Instead, he looked at the white-clothed cultivator in charge of the formation and asked with slight confusion, "Senior, will that be acceptable?" Of course, use of the transportation formation is charged based on the number of activations, not by the quantity of people. Regardless of whether it is a single person or 7 people, the cost will still be 700 spirit stones. However, only a maximum of 7 people can be teleported in a single instance. The white-clothed cultivator spoke indifferently. Hanli respectfully thanked him for his explanation, and then turned his head towards the woman, asking her with a smile, "Have you decided which demon beast island you intend to go to? My martial uncle and I wish to head to Deep Jade Island." Deep Jade Island. The woman was startled for a moment. After glancing at the several people behind her, she immediately replied with a chuckle, "What a coincidence. We also planned on heading towards Deep Jade Island." Hanli's expression didn't change, but he inwardly sneered. A coincidence. These people obviously didn't care which demon beast island they went to, but since Hanli could save on spirit stones, he nodded his head in agreement. After each of the group members handed over 100 spirit stones to the white-clothed cultivator, they all stood in the transportation formation for Deep Jade Island. The white-clothed cultivator then handed each of them a displacement talisman to place on their body. It seemed that this talisman had an effect similar to the greater displacement medallion, preventing any mishaps from occurring due to long-distance teleportation. Although the talisman could provide protection for long-distance teleportation, it was only effective up to a certain distance and could only be used once. The greater displacement medallion was far superior by comparison, but even so, the talisman was still considered a rare item that could only be created by the talisman masters of the Star Palace. They weren't for sale on the outside. Hanli felt somewhat nervous as the spirit stones around the transportation formation flashed with blinding white light. After the light faded away, Hanli and the others found themselves within a simple stone room, indicating that the teleportation had succeeded without a problem. In addition to the 7 new arrivals, an expressionless Star Palace cultivator also stood in the room. The Star Palace cultivator was only a mid-foundation establishment cultivator and was sitting in a corner of the room in meditation. After indifferently glancing at Hanli and the others when the teleportation finished, he closed his eyes once more without any intention of further paying them attention. Hanli felt a slightly unordinary spiritual chi fluctuation in the room. It seemed to originate from the formation spell's restrictions that enshrouded the room. The stone room had a large, half-open door. Through its opening, faint chatter could be heard from the outside, and the occasional silhouette could be seen passing by. While Hanli looked around the room in curiosity, the others walked out of the formation while minding their own business. But suddenly, an aged core formation cultivator with a face as red as ripe jujube suddenly turned around and asked, "Are you fellow Taoists interested in joining hands with us? We'll split the spirit stones evenly after selling off the demon cores." "There is no need. My martial nephew and I have different plans. Please take care of yourselves." Crooked Soul's ugly face remained expressionless while declining the proposal. The old man revealed slight disappointment at the refusal and sighed, saying, "That is truly a pity. If fellow Taoists were to join me, we'd have no problem hunting grade 6 demon beasts. Since it appears that this is the first time you two have visited a demon beast island, I'll give you two a word of advice. Not only must you be wary of high-grade demon beasts here, but you should also be careful of ambushes from evil cultivators. If that happened, it would be better to be traveling in a group. If you have a change of heart, we will happily welcome you." Hanli remained silent for a moment, before bringing Crooked Soul out of the room with a chuckle. "What's this?" Hanli looked around in astonishment. It wouldn't be wrong to say that this place had small streets everywhere, because there were businesses of all kinds scattered about, selling talismans, magic tools, assorted goods, or even purchasing depots. Each of the stores also had a shopkeeper lazily sitting inside. These stores were also quite crudely constructed. They weren't built with stone but with wooden logs instead. As they were truly simple as can be, Hanli doubted whether the stores would still be standing after a strong gust of wind. Moreover, these so-called streets spread outwards with the transportation formation stone room as the center. They were carelessly arranged and scattered in every direction, leaving orderly observers feeling unwell upon sight. TL, 4 Great Merchants Alliance, 4 Elements Merchant Alliance. Chapter 394, Cultivators and Demon Beasts on a Small Island. The most puzzling thing to Han Li was the silence that spread throughout the streets. There wasn't a single person outside of the stores. After murmuring to himself for a moment, he silently smiled. How could he have forgotten? This place wasn't nearly as leisurely as the inner star seas. The courageous new arrivals to these islands were at mid-foundation establishment at the very least. They should all be out hunting demon beasts. Han Li then lifted his head and looked around, discovering that this place was actually built with its back to a small mountain. Han Li pondered for a moment before walking towards the general goods store built from rubble. Are there any new sea maps of the nearby area? Before Han Li arrived, he had learned that the sea maps of the Demon Beast Islands were constantly being replaced, and that the newest maps were the most useful. We have general maps and detailed maps. Which type would Senior like? The shopkeeper of the general goods store was a middle-aged chi condensation cultivator. He gave an enthusiastic reply after they came over and asked him a question. The detailed map, Han Li answered instantly. The detailed map costs 100 spirit stones, the middle-aged man stated boldly. 100. Han Li felt that he had misheard, but his face soon darkened and revealed fury. Although he didn't intend to provoke any problems, he wasn't going to allow himself to be swindled by a low-grade cultivator. Senior shouldn't misunderstand. This price wasn't decided by me, but by my superiors. I'm only obeying orders. In addition, other cultivators sell us the new maps at a high price as well. In response to Han Li's gloomy expression, he gave an explanation with his own complaints rather than expressing fear. Your superiors, what merchant union do you belong to? Han Li asked with a frown after his anger had somewhat subsided. He clearly understood that small shops weren't capable of conducting business on the Demon Beast Islands. This might even be a branch of the Four Elements Merchant Union. After a short pause, the middle-aged man replied with a smile, Senior sure is knowledgeable. Junior is an underling of the Lavish Cheer Merchant Union. The same Lavish Cheer Union that established the Lavish Cheer Auction House in Heavenly Star City, and is a member of the Four Elements Merchant Union. That's right, Senior. Without any further bickering, Han Li bluntly threw a mid-grade spirit stone his way. The shopkeeper then let out a chuckle and handed a jade slip over to Han Li. Han Li glanced at the other shops before taking the jade slip and moodily asking, are the other stores also part of your Lavish Cheer Merchant Union? How could that possibly be? Apart from the purchasing depot in the west, the other businesses were all established by different merchant unions and have no relation to ours. The middle-aged man glanced at the other stores and spoke with slight hostility. Having heard this, Han Li turned around and left with Crooked Soul without any further words. Just as he thought to fly off on his divine wind boat, a streak of green light fell from the sky and landed in front of the purchasing depot. The light faded away to reveal a tall and burly core formation cultivator. Youngster Fan, you've got business, the large man loudly yelled towards the store after arriving. He then took out a storage pouch from his chest and threw it on the floor. With a whirl of rainbow radiance, the 10-meter corpse of a monstrous fish appeared on the ground. Although it was said to be a fish, the only fish-like thing about it were the green scales on its body. It had a python's head and huge claws on its abdomen, and there was a bloody hole on its upper back. It seemed its demon core had already been ripped out. Ah, Senior Hao has arrived. This jade-skill demon fish is quite hard to kill. Only Senior's truly remarkable skill would be able to kill it. A chi condensation youth quickly ran out from the store and examined the demon corpse with quick eyes and clever mind. As he incessantly praised the large man heartily laughed. The man seemed to be a heroic figure. He suddenly turned around to face Han Li and Crooked Soul. After examining them for a moment, he candidly yelled out to them, your faces are unfamiliar. You must have just arrived. Do you wish to hunt demon beasts together? Seeing that the large man was so cordial, Han Li silently smiled but had Crooked Soul shake his head in refusal. The large man revealed a trace of disappointment but enthusiastically continued, I'm Hao Yuanshan and am somewhat well known on Deep Jade Island. If you change your mind, come find me. With that said, the large man took a pouch of spirit stones from the youth and looked at it before energetically flying off in a streak of green light. Han Li stood in his original spot while silently pondering. Both the red-faced core formation cultivator as well as the large man surnamed Hao had invited him to join them. Quite a number of core formation cultivators had arrived on Deep Jade Island and formed their own groups, Even core formation cultivators traveled in groups so that they may hunt demon beasts in safety. Han Li had already known about this from his research. If he didn't have his own plans in mind, it was likely he would have agreed to one of their invitations. Han Li carefully looked through the map on the Jade slip he just bought, while he flew his divine wind boat towards the edge of the island. Deep Jade Island wasn't very large, and after a short moment, Han Li had already arrived at the island's edge. Han Li swept his gaze across his surroundings while standing at the front of his divine wind boat. His eyes flashed with spirit, and he chose a direction as he flew deeper into the endless seas. Han Li didn't dare to travel too close to the water as it was home to demon beasts with deep cultivation. Although those beasts concealed themselves at the seafloor, they would occasionally feed on any lifeforms that passed by above them. If any cultivators were to alarm one, they would almost certainly be consumed as well. As such, Han Li was extremely careful. But in contrast, one couldn't fly at too high an altitude in the outer star seas, as the sea beasts weren't the only occupants. There were also bird-type demon beasts that habitually patrolled the seas from up above. Allowing oneself to enter their range of vision was extremely dangerous. Of course, this wasn't always the case. Each of the sea territories had slightly different circumstances, and one's safety was never absolute. Every year, cultivators teleport to the Demon Beast Islands with dreams of hunting demon beasts for their cores, but a significant number of them never returned. There were even rumors of high-grade demon beasts overcoming their core formation hunters and devouring them instead. While there were clearly enormous profits to be had by hunting demon beasts in the outer star seas, there was an equally high level of danger involved. As such, all cultivators who arrived on these islands would voluntarily form groups with their acquaintances and hunt together with the increased safety. However, gathering together in large numbers to hunt was a taboo. Previously, all the cultivators on the Demon Beast Islands had hunted together. They were successful for a while before they had attracted the attention of a large group of demon beasts that were all grade 7 and higher. Not only was the death toll terrifying, but the island was completely destroyed as well. After these events repeated 2 additional times, no one else dared to gather together in groups past a certain size. Nowadays, they would gather together in groups of at most a dozen, creating many smaller groups around the island where high-level cultivators were often roped in to join them. With the previously mentioned information in mind, Han Li's expression immediately became sullen after flying from Deep Jade Island. Not only did Han Li release his powerful spiritual sense, surrounding his body in a 100-meter radius, but he also propelled his divine wind boat at its greatest speed and quickly flew through the air in a streak of white light. Every 6 hours, Han Li would stop and confirm his direction, as he was deeply fearful of getting lost and being unable to find his destination. Han Li's luck was surprisingly quite good. On his way, he didn't encounter any trouble aside from an easily avoided grade 5 demon beast that was romping around in the distance. After flying with periodic stops for 3 days, he eventually spotted a small fire-red island. As he flew closer, he saw that the island was created from an accumulation of scarlet coral. With the addition of the sparkling reflection of sunlight, it made for quite a beautiful sight. Han Li stopped above the island and revealed a face of happiness. Chapter 395, Rainbow Skirt Grass. Red Coral Island, so this is the nearest coral island. Han Li stood on the divine wind boat and muttered to himself for a moment. Afterwards, he flew in a large circle around the island and made sure that the coral island didn't have any cultivators or demon beasts nearby before slowly descending with Crooked Soul. The small ring-shaped island was composed of coral rings of differing sizes. Han Li stood on a smooth surface and ground his shoes against the ground to make fine, dark red grains of dust. He then lifted his head to examine the topography of the island. A short moment later, he narrowed his eyes in contemplation. Ordering Crooked Soul to stand guard near him, he suddenly set off to walk around the island. Under Crooked Soul's protection, Han Li made a thorough inspection of the island's west and east coral rings. After making a full examination of the island, he even dove into the sea in the center of the island and didn't emerge until half a day later. On the 3rd day, Han Li completed his investigation and finally came to a decision. He ordered Crooked Soul to place down his 3 great formations, the 5 elements reversal formation, the fierce heavenly wind formation, and the illusory heaven-sifting formation, at his selected locations. The 3 formations all covered the center of Red Coral Island. After placing down the 3 formations, Han Li additionally set up several small-scale magic formations at the center of the red coral island. With every direction sealed off from the center, it created an inescapable net. Having done all of this, Han Li carefully examined his work and ensured that there was nothing he had overlooked. Then, he took out a jade box from his storage pouch and gently stroked it. Han Li revealed a mysterious smile and slowly opened it, revealing a large medicinal herb that had 13 leaves on its stalk. The leaves were completely curled up, making it appear quite peculiar. Even more noteworthy was the white mist the plant carried that faintly released a rainbow light, making for a magnificent sight. It seemed to be of supernatural nature. This was Han Li's greatest trump card, the rainbow skirt grass. Although the herb wasn't common, it couldn't be considered a rarity either. This item was able to be found on coral reefs in the scattered star seas. However, if one attempted to plant this in ordinary soil, it would cause its surroundings to shine with color for 1 or 2 days before dying off. It was quite interesting. What was most fascinating was that the color which shined would be the same as the environment it grew in, altering the color of its current location, whether it be blue, red, or any other color. However, it didn't possess any significant medicinal effects for cultivators. Apart from its attractiveness, common cultivators would only view it as an ingredient used in some low-grade medicine pills. However, rainbow skirt grass had another name, demon grass, and had previously caused a large amount of uproar in the cultivation world of the scattered star seas. At the time, an unknown cultivator had unexpectedly discovered that every 100 years, one of the 13 curled leaves of this extremely beautiful medicinal herb would gradually unfold. Upon fully unfolding, it would release a strange scent that lasted an entire week. The scent didn't have any effect on cultivators, but to the many demon beasts in the sea, it was an extremely enticing aroma. With the slightest smell, the demon beasts would instantly search for it, racing to be the first to find and devour its source. In addition, the older the rainbow skirt grass, the farther its scent traveled, and the more powerful the demon beasts it would attract. It was said that a nascent soul expert had previously found a stalk of 1,000-year-old rainbow skirt grass in the depths of the outer star seas that had just unfolded its 11th leaf. As a result, this expert had personally seen several tens of grade 6 and grade 7 demon beasts mount a simultaneous charge towards it, forcing the expert to flee. When this was later made known in the cultivation world, many cultivators had thoughts of using this herb to lure demon beasts for easy hunting, as high-grade cultivators would often go months in the outer star seas without encountering a single demon beast. Towards a majority of cultivators, grade 5 demon beasts were the best targets, as hunting grade 6 and 7 demon beasts posed too great a risk of death. As for any demon beasts grade 8 and higher, only old nascent soul eccentrics wouldn't flee at the sight of them. Anybody else would merely become demon beast food. The number of demon beasts in the outer star seas were truly great. However, they were truly difficult to find as they rarely ever left their concealment from the deep seas. Unless high-level cultivators flew thousands of kilometers day by day over the ocean, or possessed remarkable ability for searching the sea with their spiritual sense, roaming the scattered star seas for half a year without encountering a demon beast was a very common occurrence. After all, the outer star seas were truly vast, and the various demon beasts each had their own methods of concealment. It was quite easy to overlook them even when searching with spiritual sense. When it was discovered that rainbow skirt grass could attract demon beasts, it caused quite an uproar. For a time, well-aged rainbow skirt grass was quite precious. However, it was soon discovered that this idea was but a mere fantasy. First of all, there was no method to predict the exact moment its leaves would uncurl. It is said to uncurl one of its leaves every 100 years, but there was often a variance of 3 or 2 years. As such, there was no way for cultivators to effectively make use of it while they were at sea. Secondly, there was the depressing discovery that rainbow skirt grass lost its ability to uncurl its leaves and release its unique scent 100 years after being picked. As such, any thoughts of transporting it to the outer star seas were extinguished. As for its name as demon grass, it was quickly discarded, and it returned to being called rainbow skirt grass. When Han Li found this mocking, understated record in a jade slip, his eyes flashed with inspiration. The small bottle's ability was just waiting to be combined with the spiritual herb. He immediately purchased a stalk of rainbow skirt grass from the city market and experimented with it in his cave residence. As a result, the rainbow skirt grass gradually uncurled its leaf over the course of 5 days under the effects of the green liquid. Afterwards, it released a strange scent that couldn't be described as either pleasant or foul, but it did leave quite the impression. Doubtfully, Han Li placed his 2 blooded spiders into the medicine garden. As a result, the 2 demon beasts immediately leapt towards the rainbow skirt grass and completely devoured it without the slightest hesitation. Soon after, the scent faded away, and the 2 white spiders returned to normal. While this result came as a pleasant surprise, he also felt worried about his blooded spiders. After carefully examining them for the next few days and finding that nothing strange had occurred, he finally felt relieved. With this trump card in hand, he was suddenly filled with confidence in hunting demon beasts for their cores. After making another round of preparations, not only did Han Li bring a large amount of rainbow skirt grass, but he also visited the many coral islands in Deep Jade Island's territory after arriving. After all, rainbow skirt grass could only survive on coral islands. As such, after laying down his inescapable net on Red Coral Island, he waited for the rainbow skirt grass to mature and have demon beasts come knocking on his door. Han Li had found an isolated coral reef in the sea, the center of the ring-shaped Red Coral Island, and planted his rainbow skirt grass sprout on it. Although he knew that the older the rainbow skirt grass, the greater area of effect it would have, he started off with 100-year-old rainbow skirt grass to be safe. Han Li took out a small bottle from his body and carefully dripped the green liquid onto the spirit herb. He then meditated on a nearby coral island with Crooked Soul by his side, both of them preserving their strength for what was to come. 3 days later, the rainbow skirt grass had unfolded a leaf before Han Li's eyes and released a bizarre scent. Han Li silently waved his hand. With a flash of radiance, glowing formation flags of various colors appeared embedded in the ground around him. Han Li gazed at the formation flags for a moment before calmly closing his eyes once more. He had already decided that if no demon beasts appeared in the next few days, he would give the rainbow skirt grass another drop of the green liquid and increase the range of its demon-luring effect. With this, demon beasts were bound to visit. Chapter 396, Hunting Demon Beasts for Cores. Han Li's worries were soon proven unfounded. A mere hour later, Han Li felt 2 huge spiritual chi fluctuations head towards the Red Coral Island, one from the east and one from the west. His expression changed, and he suddenly opened his eyes, rigidly staring at the line of formation flags before him. Although he had already completed his preparations, he couldn't help but become nervous as 2 high-grade demon beasts were coming at the same time. Suddenly, a purple formation flag in front of him flashed with radiance and lightly trembled. Han Li's expression grew solemn, but he didn't take any immediate action and only silently looked on. He knew that although a grade 5 demon beast could be considered intelligent, it wouldn't be able to break free from the 5 elements reversal formation only a moment after entering it. A grade 5 demon beast may possess similar cultivation to an early core formation cultivator, but its fighting strength was almost always inferior to a cultivator of similar rank. After all, its intelligence was poor, and it was capable of far too few magic techniques, allowing cultivators of similar strength to easily kill them. In addition, they would need quite some time to break through profound creations such as formation spells. As such, Han Li felt at ease allowing one more demon beast to enter his magic formation before setting out to act. Just as he was apprehensively thinking to himself, a yellow formation flag flashed with brilliance and released a soft hum. Suddenly, Han Li's solemn expression became somewhat happy. He then formed an incantation gesture with his hands and restricted the scent of the rainbow skirt grass with the formation surrounding it. After doing this, Han Li held out his bare hands, and 2 of the glowing formation flags flew into them with a single word: "Come." Behind him, Crooked Soul opened his mouth and spouted out a yellow radiance. The yellow radiance flourished, swirling around Han Li and carrying him off towards the sky in a yellow streak of light. After a short moment, Han Li appeared above the westmost formation, the illusory heaven-sifting formation. The formation's colorful green-yellow clouds were incessantly rolling, and an ox's roar could faintly be heard booming from within the formation. Han Li then took out his divine wind boat and had it fly away by itself. He then took out the yellow formation flag and lightly waved it. The formation flag shot out a yellow beam of light towards the colorful clouds, causing them to vanish and reveal the demon beast within. The demon beast was about 10 meters long and had a round body surrounded by spikes of fire-red light. At first glance, it appeared to be a huge sea urchin. However, over 30 dark green eyes protruded from its body. The eyes' gazes were ice gold, and they shot out scarlet streaks of light in quick succession towards the formation. Its bull-like roar came from its fat abdomen and sounded as if it was violently irritated. Thousand-eyed demon. After seeing the demon beast's appearance, Han Li immediately recognized it and became somewhat interested. As it was one of the most commonly seen grade 5 demon beasts in the scattered star seas, it would make for good practice. He didn't dare delay for long since this formation wasn't strong enough to endure much more of the demon's rampage. He immediately gave Crooked Soul an order. After receiving the order, the yellow light enveloping Crooked Soul's body suddenly turned blood red. He then brought his hands together and quickly separated them, shooting out a yellow crescent from his hand towards the thousand-eyed demon in the formation. This was the magic treasure that Crooked Soul had nearly fully refined, the immemorial bowl. Although the thousand-eyed demon was trapped in the formation, it seemed to realize how powerful the yellow crescent was. All of the eyes on its body locked onto the immemorial bowl, flying towards it and shot scarlet beams at it simultaneously, combining into a thick red beam of light. For a short while, the beam rigidly blocked the yellow crescent's advance, forcing a contest of magic power with Crooked Soul, the magic treasure's controller. Han Li then revealed a smile. He patted a bulging storage pouch at his waist, causing over 100 white lights to quickly fly out and surround the great formation. These white lights were sinister puppet beasts that appeared to be almost 3 meters tall. They immediately opened their mouths and dazzling light began to condense in them as if they were prepared to act. At this moment, Han Li's face was flushed with excitement. He waved his hand, causing his red-thread shadow chaser needles to appear in his hand. At that same time, the puppet beasts each shot out a beam of light towards the thousand-eyed demon. The demon beast seemed to have discovered the direness of its situation and suddenly let out a sharp whistle. Its entire body let out a groan and curled into a huge ball of flesh covered in spikes of light. At the same time, the red light released by its eyeballs started to turn green. These green streaks of light weren't launched as an attack, and instead condensed into a thick barrier of light around its body. The 100 beams of light simultaneously struck the green light barrier, causing an explosion of radiance to shine around it. The demon beast's barrier managed to withstand the attack. However, the green light barrier began to flicker as if it would collapse before long. With the absence of the red beam of light that previously restrained it, the immemorial bowl was free to attack. Under Crooked Soul's command, it suddenly became a huge disc that spanned about 10 meters. In concert with the light beam attacks, it fiercely struck down onto the demon beast. The sound of a sharp rupture soon followed. Although the light barrier was being sustained by desperate releases of green light by the thousand-eyed beast, the repeated attacks of the puppet's light beam, along with the immemorial bowl strike, had completely destroyed its barrier. Han Li, who had been waiting for this, instantly reacted, raising his hand. A set of red threads flew off and shot towards the demon beast's vulnerable body. After the time it took to finish a meal, Han Li was inside the formation, with a green orb the size of a chicken egg now in his hand, along with a wide smile on his face. Underneath his foot was the heavily damaged demon beast corpse with a fist-sized bloody hole on its body. Go, Han Li didn't delay any longer. After storing the demon beast's corpse in his storage pouch, he set off and was immediately swept up by Crooked Soul's yellow light and hastily taken to a different formation spell. That was how Han Li spent an entire month on Red Coral Island. He would periodically place a drop of green liquid on the rainbow skirt grass, gradually increasing the range of the demon lure. This attracted demon beasts in intervals of 2 or 3 days, allowing Han Li and Crooked Soul to slay over a dozen grade 5 demon beasts, much to Han Li's great delight. But when the rainbow skirt grass had reached 400 years old, it attracted a grade 6 demon beast by the name of Falcomed Flood Dragon. Han Li was very surprised and hastily cut off the scent of the rainbow skirt grass with his formation spell. After the demon beast swam a few rounds nearby after the scent disappeared, it angrily left. Frightened, Han Li discovered the rainbow skirt grass was best used aged up to 300 years. Maturing it past that point would attract even stronger demon beasts. When that time came, he hastily took out a new rainbow skirt grass sprout and started over. But as of current, nearly all the grade 5 demon beasts near Red Coral Island had perished. After having no demon beasts attracted within a week, Han Li and Crooked Soul immediately put away their spell formations and left the island. After flying for several days in the outer star seas, they found another coral island and continued hunting demon beasts with the same method. This exciting, repetitive, and dangerous lifestyle in the outer star seas continued for 5 years. During this time, he had killed hundreds of Grade 5 demon beasts. He had also encountered unfamiliar demon beasts rarely seen in the cultivation world. The first time Han Li had come across them, he had found himself caught on the thin line between life and death. Were it not for the vicious fearlessness of Crooked Soul and his puppets, he would have already met his end in the vast ocean, even with the assistance of his formation spells. Furthermore, time wasn't the only thing that was consumed during those years. Not only were a vast majority of his puppets destroyed, but many of his tools for setting up formations had been destroyed or badly damaged by the more violent demon beasts. Even his most impressive 5 elements reversal formation had been destroyed half a year ago when he had carelessly attracted a Grade 7 demon beast. He could only helplessly trap the demon beast inside while he and Crooked Soul made their escape. While his losses during these 5 years were great, it was only natural that his returns were even more astonishing. Apart from receiving several hundred Grade 5 demon cores, Han Li also acquired an incredible quantity of rare demon beast materials. He even had to discard a few of his less valuable items from his storage pouch to make room for all of them. In addition to killing several hundreds of demon beasts, he had also tempered his combat skills to perfection and developed quite a few minor techniques for killing demon beasts by himself. As of now, Han Li could calmly face a lone common Grade 5 demon beast without a trace of fear. Chapter 397, Bitter, Secluded Cultivation. Han Li was on his way back to Deep Jade Island, as careful as he had always been. He completely understood that without his puppets or formation spells, it was extremely dangerous to rush through the outer star seas. Although they were easily able to deal with a Grade 5 demon beast, if they were to catch the attention of a Grade 6 demon beast or worse, it would be difficult to avoid death. According to his estimations, the demon cores he had gathered should be more than enough to get him through the second or even third revolution of the 3 essence revolutions technique. His several hundred Grade 5 spirit stones would net him a couple hundred thousands of spirit stones at the very least. The rare materials he had gathered alone would double the price. However, Han Li wasn't inspired by greed. This had all been done so that he may tread a bit farther in pursuit of the immortal Tao. Thus, when it became increasingly dangerous to continue hunting demon beasts, he immediately decided to return. As of now, he had traveled quite far into the outer star seas. Had he not recorded all of the strange islands he had been to on his map, he might not have been able to find his way back. Even if he knew the way back, Han Li's return would still take several months of flight. He greatly valued his life and feared that he might encounter ferocious demon beasts on his way back or cultivators that may try to rob him. Demon beasts shouldn't prove to be a problem. At most, they would just circle around him a bit, but they wouldn't approach him too closely. But if he were to come across any malicious cultivators, they definitely wouldn't let them go. His demon cores would be difficult to protect, let alone his fragile life. As such, Han Li and Crooked Soul were highly vigilant during their journey. Whenever they encountered traces of other cultivators, they immediately hid or fled. In this way, Han Li eventually arrived back on Deep Jade Island without any problems, allowing him to let out a huge breath of relief. Han Li entered an extremely shabby small street and found that apart from 2 shopkeepers being replaced, everything else had remained the same. Not paying attention to any of the shopkeepers' interested gazes, he walked towards the stone room with the transportation formation. The Star Palace cultivator in the stone room had been replaced by a middle-aged man with a gentle face. Upon seeing Han Li and Crooked Soul enter the room, he faintly smiled, asking, "Do you two want to use the formation?" Han Li dove onto his large bed and soon fell into a deep sleep. As of current, he had already returned to his cave residence on the 39th layer of Heavenly Star City. As both his body and mind were fatigued, he was unable to deal with any other matters. He'd first deeply sleep for a few days before waking up with the energy he needed. His journey through the outer star seas had tired him by no small amount. After awakening, Han Li took a stroll around his cave residence. As he hadn't been there for many years, he felt that he should refamiliarize himself with it. But when he went to the insect room, he saw that the gold-devouring beetles had turned into a huge silver sphere once more, hanging from the ceiling in hibernation. Han Li couldn't help but lightly shake his head in response. Soon after, Han Li took a trip to the city market and bought all of the pill recipes being sold in the market before returning. Han Li then busied himself once again with pill concoction. Han Li then spent an entire 2 years within his cave residence, refining large quantities of medicine pills in accordance to the pill recipes he had collected, combining aged spiritual herbs with demon cores. His original problem of developing a tolerance for medicine was now a thing of the past. During this time, he gradually sold off the demon beast materials he didn't need to the traveling merchants visiting Heavenly Star City. As a result, he wouldn't have to worry about spirit stones for a while. After finishing these matters, Han Li thoroughly sealed off his cave residence and started to make preparations for dispersing his cultivation. But while he was arranging his medicine pills and the remaining demon beast materials, he unintentionally took out a particular item that gave him a bit of a headache: the large quantities of hundreds-year-old rainbow skirt grass that he had used to lure demon beasts while in the outer star seas. They couldn't be sold for much, but it would be a pity to destroy them after having used quite a bit of the green liquid on them. Besides, Han Li had always held some interest in its great demon-luring power when its leaves uncurled and had wanted to carefully research it. As Han Li looked at the bunch of rainbow skirt grass in front of him, he came up with a rather strange thought. The thoughts became stronger until he couldn't contain it, causing himself to feel a bit flabbergasted. After tilting his head in thought, he gathered the rainbow skirt grass and suddenly walked to the insect room containing the gold-devouring beetles. He then casually tossed the rainbow skirt grass into the room, but the gold-devouring beetles didn't show the slightest reaction. Having seen this, Han Li laughed to himself. But after a moment of hesitation, he had Crooked Soul plant the rainbow skirt grass on a few huge chunks of coral in the medicine garden. Not long after, Han Li entered a hidden room and started to carefully scatter his cultivation in accordance with the 3 essence revolutions technique. For the purpose of stability and safety, Han Li scattered his cultivation at a very slow pace. He had gradually scattered his cultivation for an entire half-month before dropping down to his intended target, early foundation establishment stage. After reaching this point, Han Li left seclusion. He would first consolidate his cultivation before practicing the 3 essence revolutions technique with the aid of medicine pills. By some unknown compulsion, Han Li used a green drop to further mature a stalk of rainbow skirt grass and threw it into the insect room when it started emitting its strange scent. Soon after, he stood outside the room, carefully staring inside through a slim gap, only to experience slight disappointment. The silver sphere of clustered gold-devouring beetles didn't move in the slightest, as if they hadn't detected any difference. Although this had slightly surprised Han Li, he wasn't particularly puzzled. This was because the rainbow skirt grass didn't have an attractive effect on all demon beasts. As the gold-devouring beetles were high-ranking demon beasts, not being attracted was always a distinct possibility. Han Li lightly sighed, no longer willing to waste any more time or green liquid on the grass. He thought to instead fully focus his resources and time on creating more spirit feed pills for his 2 blooded spiders. But just as he thought this, the silver sphere of beetles suddenly broke apart. The eyes of the several hundreds gold-devouring beetles flickered with red light as they flocked towards the strangely scented rainbow skirt grass. After devouring it in an instant, they continuously let out a low hum as if they were irritated. Han Li was somewhat stunned by this scene, but immediately revealed slight joy. It seemed that his experiments could continue. Han Li left the insect room in a great mood and ordered Crooked Soul to periodically throw in a similar amount of rainbow skirt grass. He wanted to see what effect his rainbow skirt grass would have on demon beasts so that he may lay to rest some of the doubts he carried. Not long after, Han Li brought all of his medicine pills with him into his hidden room and sealed it off, intent on staying until either he succeeded or died trying. Han Li had already fully prepared himself, and in order to maintain his focus, he had decided he wouldn't take a single step outside of his hidden room until he fully restored his cultivation. As for the rest of the matters in his cave residence, since he could will his clone, Crooked Soul, to take care of them, he had little worry. Han Li took a pill out of a bottle and swallowed it before closing his eyes, entering a state of oblivious cultivation. In the following days, apart from ordering Crooked Soul to tend to the matters outside of his room, he was completely focused on refining his qi. As time passed, Han Li's mind eventually felt no desire. Whenever he felt that his body's spiritual qi was lacking, he casually swallowed a medicine pill and entered meditation once more. Years upon years of monotonous cultivation had passed, fueled by Han Li's intense desire to reach core formation. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye, and the hidden room's door still showed not a single sign of movement. 20 years passed by and still the room's door remained shut. 30 years. Time continued to flow with countless suns and moons scurrying past the sky. On a day during the 60th year, a black cloud suddenly appeared above Han Li's cave residence. The weather suddenly underwent a huge change, causing his silver beetles to wildly scatter inside their room. At nearly the same time, threads of spiritual chi from the nearby 100 kilometers frantically amassed towards Han Li's cave residence, creating a huge vortex of spiritual chi that could be seen with the naked eye. This scene alarmed the nearby cultivators. Regardless of whether they were passing by or a resident that lived nearby, they all stopped or left their cave residences, glancing at the scene with amazement. Core formation. Someone has undergone core formation. Many cultivators gazed at this scene and muttered to themselves, each with their own unique expression. While there were those that were envious and confused, there were even more that revealed gazes of admiration. At the same time, the cultivators at the island that were at core formation or higher noticed that the spiritual chi on Heavenly Star Island had undergone a strange change despite not having seen the phenomenon in the sky. They investigated by having their powerful spiritual senses leave their residences. As they gazed towards Han Li's cave residence, there were a few among them that were expressionless or excited. Some of them had even frowned. TL, Sword Shadow Splitting Light Technique, Sword Shadow Phantasm Technique, Azure Bamboo Bee Cloud Sword Bamboo Cloudswarm Sword. Chapter 398, Core Formation and Magic Treasures. The door to the secret room inside the cave residence had finally opened. A silhouette slowly walked out of the room, with their face covered by long, disheveled hair. A yellow light then flashed to their side, revealing Crooked Soul with a stiff expression. Core formation. I've finally obtained core formation. After looking at the exterior of the secret room and Crooked Soul, he heartily laughed towards the sky in awe-inspiring roars. The gaps through the long, disheveled hair revealed the face of Han Li, who had undergone 60 years of secluded cultivation. However, his eyes revealed a refined spirit, and his every movement contained a vast pressure as if he had become a different person entirely. After he finished laughing, Han Li looked at the scene outside of the hidden room with a sense of unfamiliarity. After ignoring the world for 60 years, he felt a great sense of change despite everything having remained the same. It was as if everything that had happened was but a distant matter. Han Li didn't stay still for long. Using his vague memories, he went back to his bedroom. After the time it took to finish a meal, Han Li left his bedroom with a beaming smile. He had restored his original attire and appearance, that of a youth about 20 years of age. Now wearing a cold expression, he calmly walked towards the insect room. The gold-devouring insects in the room had undergone a massive change over the years. Not only had their numbers reached a frightening several tens of thousands, but their originally silver shells began to reveal spots of gold, causing them to appear even more sinister and savage than before. Han Li didn't reveal the slightest amazement. He had found out about this many years ago from his clone, Crooked Soul. The only change was that now he was able to see this with his own eyes. Han Li hadn't expected that his original flash of insight to test the rainbow skirt grass on his gold-devouring beetles would unexpectedly resolve the problem of their breeding. While he was in seclusion, Crooked Soul continuously fed the gold-devouring beetles stalks of rainbow skirt grass with their leaves uncurled. These beetles became increasingly violent after eating the herbs. After 4 years of consumption, the gold-devouring beetles had undergone a transformation. One day after they finished eating the rainbow skirt grass, the beetles began to fight and cannibalize each other. A few days later, the original several hundred had been reduced to a mere dozen. However, the surviving beetles were now docile and more beautiful. Soon after, the cannibal beetles began to lay eggs. They all slowly died after having laid about 100 eggs each, leaving Han Li with over 1,000 insect eggs. The eggs hatched about a year later, and Crooked Soul continued to feed them the ripened rainbow skirt grass, causing them to cannibalize one another and lay their eggs once more. After several repetitions, the number of gold-devouring beetles started to frantically increase. Were it not for the fact that the amount of rainbow skirt grass he could mature was limited, he would have had the beetles cannibalize themselves much more often and ceaselessly increase their numbers. But what was most surprising was how the offspring of the cannibal beetles became both stronger and more violent with each increasing generation. In addition, their silver shells began to show gold spots at an increasing frequency. This made Han Li wonder if their grade would increase after their shells turned completely golden. Standing outside the insect room, Han Li stared at the gold-devouring beetles with a spirited gaze for half a day in silence. He clearly understood that this method of breeding the gold-devouring beetles was definitely not the orthodox method used by the beast-controlling cultivators of ancient times. This was because he was certain that his small, mysterious bottle was unique in its effect of accelerated maturation. This method may perhaps be even better than the one used by his predecessors. Han Li faintly smiled as he thought this. He then moved to the other insect room close by that housed his two blooded spiders. Although Han Li had only instructed Crooked Soul to use a small portion of the green liquid produced to refine spirit feed pills for the spiders, the amount of pills consumed over this long period of time had allowed the blooded spiders to ascend by several grades. Now, they were peak grade 4 demon beasts. They were currently exactly the same as the white spider he had fought in the underground cave. Their bodies were as translucent as jade, making for a beautiful sight. The two spiders had clearly been made aware of Han Li's arrival through the connection they had with Han Li's mind. They immediately pounced towards the stone door, wishing to intimately play with Han Li. Joyful, Han Li promptly opened the stone door, allowing the two blooded spiders to pounce at him. Afterwards, they started to climb circles all around Han Li's body. Han Li caressed the backs of the two demon beasts for a moment while gazing in wonder at their sparkling, crystalline bodies. He then stored them in his spirit beast pouch before turning around and leaving their insect room. As for the gold-devouring beetles, Han Li still had little intention of using them. He planned to first have them reproduce through a few more generations, until their shells turned fully gold before putting them to use as his hidden ace. Next, Han Li walked through his cave residence before returning to his bedroom in high spirits. After lying down on his bed, Han Li thought about his core formation in the hidden room. Being able to so quickly achieve core formation greatly went against Han Li's expectations. He didn't cultivate to the third revolution of the 3 essence revolutions technique. Instead, he spent an entire 30 years to cultivate to the second revolution. By relying on medicine pills to cultivate the 3 essence revolutions technique, his cultivation speed was far quicker than he had anticipated. He originally believed that completing the third revolution of cultivation was certain to be strenuous to the point of impossibility. It would consume far too many years of his lifespan to succeed. But by completing his second revolution in a mere 30 years, he had more than enough lifespan left to cultivate through the third revolution. But after some thought, Han Li decided to not place all his hopes of core formation on the 3 essence revolutions technique. After all, this cultivation art was merely theorized and had never been tested. It was said that completing the third revolution would only allow a 50% chance of success in core formation. To put it into other words, even if he completed all 3 revolutions, he still had a 50% chance of failing. This caused him deep worry at heart, and he couldn't help but pick a more flamboyant method to increase his chances of core formation. Before Han Li had killed him, he recalled the former young master of the Thousand Bamboo School, senior martial brother Laiwan. Last appeared in chapter 232. He had attempted to possess Han Li's body but was punished as a result. Had previously said that cultivating the great development technique to a deep layer was able to increase his odds of core formation. Therefore, after some careful deliberation, he had decided to cultivate to the third layer of the great development technique. Han Li's reasoning at the time had been, regardless of whether or not he was lying, there is no harm in cultivating it. As expected, the third layer of the great development technique took far more time to cultivate than the second layer. It took Han Li about 20 years before painstakingly making a breakthrough and succeeding. As for the fourth layer of the great development technique, Han Li had no thoughts to cultivate to it. At the time, he simply didn't have the time to spare for it. Afterwards, Han Li took all sorts of supplementary spiritual medicines and began his next several-year-long attempt at core formation. To tell the truth, Han Li didn't hold much confidence in core formation with his second revolution, given his crushing failure during his first attempt of core formation at his first revolution. He merely held the notion of only spending a few years just to give it a try. But while Crooked Soul's core formation only took 4 years, Han Li's unexpected success had occurred in 5 years due to his poor aptitude. Although he had sensed the heaven-earth spiritual chi in his body run frantic, Han Li felt like it was a dream when a thumb-sized, 4-colored pearl formed after his body's true essence made desperate rotations in his danshin. I'm going to enter core formation stage like this. He didn't dare to believe it. Han Li hadn't prepared himself in the least, nearly allowing this huge fortune, the still unstable golden core, to crumble. Frightened, he hurriedly concentrated on calming his heart so that he wouldn't cause a great disturbance and undergo the great misfortune of returning to Foundation establishment. Having recalled his brush with disaster, Han Li couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth, forming a trace of a faint smile. Han Li let out a deep breath before sitting up on his bed and then standing up. Although it had been a while since his core formation, he was currently unable to calm the increasing excitement in his heart and couldn't stay still. Now that he had entered core formation, not only was he considered a senior expert in the cultivation world, but his lifespan had been increased to a frightening 600 years. This increase in longevity would allow him to later cultivate with peace of mind. But most importantly, he was finally able to make use of his core flame. He could now polish and refine his own magic treasure. With regards to magic treasures, Han Li had two in his possession. The immemorial bowl had already been refined by Crooked Soul. As for the green brilliance dagger, he would use it to protect himself for the time being. Ultimately, he would want to refine the long-coveted magic treasure that was described by the Golden Page one. Han Li acquired the Golden Page from his former master, Li Huayuan, in Chapter 240, the Bamboo Cloudswarm Swords. These swords were refined as a set. After refining them, his strength would massively increase, and he would be capable of sweeping away any cultivators of a similar rank. In addition, now that he had reached the 7th layer of the Azure Essence sword art, he could make use of the divine ability, Sorchido Phantasm technique. This caused him to excitedly look forward to his upcoming journey through the cultivation world as a core formation cultivator. He now wanted to hurriedly collect the materials for the magic treasure, Bamboo Cloudswarm Sword, so that he could create this magic treasure and begin strengthening it with his core flame and primal soul. Chapter 399, Exquisite Sound Sect. As Han Li was silently contemplating inside his bedroom, his expression suddenly changed and he walked out. During his many years of seclusion, the entrance of his residence had remained sealed. He saw that outside his cave residence's restrictions, there were 8 sound transmission talismans of various colors, knocking against his barriers like headless houseflies. Han Li looked at the scene with raised eyebrows for a moment before taking out his authority talisman and saying, "Receive." The sound transmission talismans outside the barriers shot into his hand in response. Han Li stood still as he calmly looked through them. Half of the sound transmission talismans were from neighboring core formation cultivators wishing to offer their congratulations. The other half of the sound transmission talismans were invitations from organizations of varying sizes to take a position as a high-ranking guest elder, using exceedingly rare treasures as payment. There was even one that offered 2 stunning maids as a recruitment gift right from the start. After looking through the details of their offers, Han Li inwardly rolled his eyes. He politely replied to the core formation cultivators offering their congratulations and gave a direct refusal to the many organizations. He didn't believe that he could take it easy and be without worry now that he reached core formation. He still had to use a bit of time to consolidate his core. Furthermore, Han Li considered it advantageous to maintain a low profile. In the coming days, Han Li started to frequently pay a visit to the cave residences of nearby core formation cultivators and humbly asked them for advice regarding what should be done after achieving core formation. Because the topic at hand wasn't some sort of secretive issue, these cultivators were happy to chat with him and give him a few pointers. Han Li ended up profiting quite a bit from these visits. However, a few cultivators felt very envious of how Han Li had managed to preserve his youthful appearance before achieving core formation. After all, apart from a minuscule group consisting of either geniuses with heavenly aptitude or those like Han Li who cultivate with the assistance of many spiritual medicines, most core formation cultivators had reached quite a considerable age by the time of their core formation. Although their lifespans had greatly increased after reaching core formation, they didn't regain their youthful appearance. At most, they would appear less sickly or haggard as they grew older. Naturally, there were a few cultivators that practiced a cultivation art that had the wondrous effect of preserving one's appearance, and were also part of the group which preserved their youthful appearance after core formation. Han Li happened to still have a few face-setting pills on hand. As he wasn't particularly attached to them, he traded them with the core formation cultivators for a few rare items, much to everyone's satisfaction. Although Han Li didn't end up becoming close friends with any of them, they became familiar enough that he had an amiable relationship with them, capable of calling one another brother and fellow Taoist. During this time, Han Li had also refined the green brilliance dagger while searching for magic treasure and grade 3 puppet materials. There were many materials capable of refining magic treasures, along with refinement techniques of almost every description. Apart from the power and efficacy, using top-quality materials to refine a magic treasure would result in far superior power and an even greater upgrade potential than those refined using common materials. Additionally, even if the same materials were used, there will be great differences in both power and efficacy depending on the secret techniques used to refine them. Thus, apart from the common magic treasure refinement techniques known to everyone, the exceptional secret refinement techniques were kept hidden by sects and other great powers, not easily divulged to outsiders. However, this didn't mean that the best materials combined with the best treasure refinement technique would result in a magic treasure with inexhaustible potential might. What was most important to a magic treasure's strength was the constant refinement and nourishment from the cultivator's primal soul. If the master of a peerless magic treasure was unwilling to spend the time to nurture it, its power may be inferior to that of a common magic treasure. In fact, it wasn't exactly a rare occurrence. As for the bamboo cloudswarm swords, its main material was thousand-year spirit bamboo, as the name implied. This material was easy for Han Li to acquire by spending a bit of time and taking advantage of the abilities of his small bottle. However, using common types of bamboo was beneath him. He wanted to acquire the rumored divine bamboo as the primary material for his magic treasure refinement. As a result, Han Li had attentively kept watch on the city market of Heavenly Star City until now. However, he wasn't able to find anything that satisfied him. Although he felt somewhat anxious, Han Li felt that it would be better to have nothing if he couldn't have the best, and could only leave the matter of refining his magic treasure for later. Fortunately, as he had the green brilliance dagger as well as a few treasure talismans, he wouldn't have to worry for a while. Since he couldn't refine his magic treasure, Han Li turned his eyes towards refining new puppets. According to the Puppet Sutra, the strength of grade 3 puppets were equivalent to mid-foundation establishment cultivators. As such, the materials required to refine them were even more precious than those for grade 2 puppets. In addition, these puppets came in several different shapes. After some deliberation, Han Li chose the puppet that primarily used wood element materials, the ape-styled puppet. Although this puppet required much older ironwood along with the rare sky crystal wood, they were wood-type materials. Han Li could use his green liquid on them and massively decrease their cost. But even with this, the higher-grade supplementary materials combined with the increased number of puppets he could control was sure to add up to an increasingly frightening cost. Although this amount of spirit stones wouldn't bankrupt him, it would consume all of the materials he had accumulated. Helpless, Han Li could only sell off another portion of the rare materials he acquired from the grade 5 demon beasts and postpone poverty for the time being. However, Han Li didn't expect that his actions caught the eye of an observant individual despite being so careful. One day, just as he finished selling off some materials to a minor traveling merchant, a young woman as charming as a flower blocked his way back to his cave residence. "Are you Senior Han? My clan's madam wishes to invite Han Li to the nearby Clear River Tea House. Would Senior give me the honor of accepting? If you refuse, this junior will be heavily punished by my mistress." "I'm not interested." After a mere glance at the young woman, Han Li refused without the slightest hesitation. He was able to make out that, although this woman was a mere qi condensation cultivator, she cultivated some kind of charming technique. If he were inexperienced or careless, he definitely would have made an embarrassment of himself. The 17-year-old woman was alarmed at Han Li's refusal and hastily implored him, "Senior Han, if you don't go, this junior will be punished for failure." When the young woman said that, Han Li turned around and left with an indifferent expression. Although he didn't know whose authority she was acting under, he had no interest in meeting a stranger. "Senior Han, please wait. The exquisite sound sex junior fan Jingmei pays her respect to Senior Han. I hope Senior will forgive Lionel for her offenses. I will properly discipline her later." After Han Li took 2 steps away from the young woman, he heard a pleasant female voice. He couldn't help but stop and turn his head for a look. At some unknown time, a woman covering her face with a muslin veil had appeared beside the young woman. Although her face was concealed, Han Li was able to make out that her skin was as white as snow, and her hair was black and shiny, coiled high around her head. Her 2 eyes, clear as water, stared at Han Li without blinking. I do not recognize you, miss. If you have any business, please make it short. I wish to return to my residence and cultivate. Han Li calmly spoke with an unsociable tone. Fan Jingmei was startled for a moment before replying with a faint smile. Since Senior Han is so straightforward, I will be direct as well. Senior has recently sold off large quantities of rare demon beast materials. Our sect is greatly interested in these materials and wishes to have a chat with Senior. However, there are far too many people here. How about we take this discussion to a quiet room in a tea house? After hearing her explanation, Han Li carefully examined the woman with narrowed eyes for a moment. After seeing her reveal bashfulness, Han Li stiffly said, "Fine, lead the way." "Many thanks for Senior's kindness. Senior Han, please follow me." The woman revealed slight happiness and hastily walked forward with light steps. As for the young woman, she dejectedly followed after her. However, although the young woman walked in front, she couldn't help but turn her head and steal a look at Han Li. But when her gaze met Han Li's, she quickly turned her head around in fright, and her ears revealed a strong shade of red. When Han Li saw this, he revealed a mysterious smile and inwardly chuckled. The tea house wasn't far away. After a short moment, Han Li entered a pavilion with a huge flag saying, "Tea." There were quite a few people drinking tea at this time. When a middle-aged man drinking tea saw the two women walk in, he hastily ran towards them and said, "Martial Ant, the room is ready. You and your guest may enter." "Good, bring us there and stand guard by the door afterwards," Fan Jingmei indifferently commanded. "Understood." The middle-aged man then led Han Li and the other two to an elegant room on the second floor. There was a gray-clothed old man in the room that was calmly brewing a pot of piping hot tea. His eyes didn't show the slightest change as he watched Han Li and the others enter the room. Chapter 400, Dignified. "Elder Zhao, sorry for the long wait. This is Senior Han, the owner of those demon beast materials." After entering the room, Fan Jingmei spoke to the gray-clothed old man with a respectful tone. The gray-clothed old man replied, "Oh, so it's fellow Taoist Han. Please sit. This old man just steeped a pot of ice cloud spirit tea. Please have a taste." Han Li frowned. There was nothing odd about the old man's appearance apart from unusually red cheeks, as if he had just recovered from a grave illness. He couldn't help but feel somewhat puzzled. His current spiritual sense was far stronger than cultivators of the same rank. In an instant, he was able to see that the old man was an early core formation cultivator. Han Li didn't say anything in refusal and bluntly took a seat across from the old man. Han Li indifferently stared at the old man as he poured a cup of fragrant tea, but didn't move to take it. Han Li didn't mean to slight the old man, as he was acting out of habitual carefulness. He definitely wasn't going to drink something from an unfamiliar place. The old man didn't reveal any displeasure at Han Li's cautious actions. Instead, he faintly smiled and poured himself a cup, placing all other matters to the back of his head for that instant. "Senior Han, we've come to find you on behalf of the Exquisite Sound Sect to purchase all of your remaining demon beast materials. Let's discuss the price." Just as Fan Jingmei sat down, she gently spoke to Han Li with a dainty composure. How could Han Li easily admit to still having many rare materials despite not knowing their intentions? After some calm thought about what they had said, Han Li decided to block them for the time being. "It is true that I had previously acquired quite a few demon beast materials. However, I have just sold my last batch. I fear that must disappoint you." When Lady Fan heard Han Li's refusal, she sweetly smiled and softly spoke with a hint of laughter. "It seems Senior Han wishes to fool us. Although our sect doesn't know how many demon beast materials you have, we are certain that it's a large amount. Otherwise, Senior Han wouldn't have so carefully sought out small, traveling merchants to sell them to. In addition, every transaction was done in very small amounts, and you look for a different buyer every time. Had our sect not happened to be gathering related materials, it's likely we wouldn't have discovered something was amiss. Senior Shore is scared of having his wealth exposed. If this is the case, Senior Han can dispel those fears. Although our sect isn't some sort of superpower, our sect holds quite a positive reputation in the scattered star seas. If Senior were to sell all the materials to us, it would save us the trouble of repeatedly purchasing them from small merchants." The woman spoke with a beaming smile and a calm appearance. However, Han Li's eyes coldly glinted, and he slightly scowled. Finding out you had been secretly investigated wasn't a happy matter. In response to Han Li's scowl, Lady Fan suddenly changed the subject and gave Han Li an explanation. "Senior Han, please don't blame me for my rude conduct from before. This matter is quite urgent, and we had to make use of a majority of our power in Heavenly Star City to track you down. We hope that Senior will provide us assistance, just this once." This time, she had placed herself in a weaker position with her words, and gaze revealing a slight intention to implore. Hanli's scowl gradually subsided, but he didn't give an immediate response. Instead, he started to lightly tap the table with an indifferent expression. At this moment, Hanli's mind was continuously churning through lines of thought, analyzing the pros and cons at lightning speed. Although he didn't know why the exquisite sound sect required such a large quantity of demon beast materials, they clearly believed that he possessed what they desired. If Hanli further denied them, it would only serve to create a meaningless grudge. While he hadn't heard of the exquisite sound sect before, they shouldn't be too weak, given the appearance of Elder Zhao. Hanli didn't wish to make an enemy of them without good reason. In addition, he possessed a bit too many demon beast materials. If he continued to sell them off bit by bit, it would only be a matter of time before he was found out. As such, wouldn't it be better to take advantage of this opportunity and cleanly handle the matter all at once? After all, this was Heavenly Star City where fights were prohibited. He wouldn't have to worry about anything going amiss. With that thought, Hanli was silent for a moment more before serenely saying, "Since you've spoken as such, I won't further conceal the truth. I do possess a few of the demon beast materials that your sect desires, but I don't know whether or not I have enough to satisfy you." The two women revealed joy at Hanli's admittance. As for the old man sipping tea as if he were above the world, he gazed at Hanli with a much more relaxed expression. "How much are you in possession of?" Lady Fan impatiently asked, gazing at Hanli in anticipation. Hanli faintly smiled and replied with an astonishing number, much to the pleasant surprise of the woman. Although she knew Hanli possessed quite a bit, she didn't expect the quantity to be at such a degree. She could finally finish her mission. "I want all of those materials. Does Senior have time to do the trade today?" The exquisite sound sect's Lady Fan couldn't keep her composure and spoke with a slight tremble in her voice, fearful that Hanli would change his mind. Hanli felt quite surprised at this woman's impatience. However, he also felt that it would be best for this trade to made as quickly as possible. There would be less time for any unwelcome problems to appear. After some thought, he said, "I do. Let's do the trade here. Lady Fan should go get the spirit stones. I'll go and fetch the demon beast materials." Hanli's clear decisiveness was in agreement with the woman's intentions. She repeatedly nodded her head with a gaze of happiness. Hanli then indifferently stood up and took his leave, walking out of the room in large strides. A moment after Hanli disappeared from view, Lady Fan's excited appearance gradually faded away. She suddenly turned her head towards the old man and asked, "Senior Zhao, how is his cultivation? I've heard that he had just achieved core formation. He shouldn't have had the time to refine a magic treasure. If you were to take him by surprise, could you overcome him? If you are confident, we would be able to save quite a huge sum of spirit stones." By the time this woman icily said those words, her dainty temperament had changed into a chilling, sinister expression. "Impossible. Although this person hasn't been in core formation for long, his cultivation art is unordinary. Not only is his magic power exceedingly pure, but his body conceals the faint chi of a magic treasure. While he didn't have the time to secretly refine a magic treasure, he is in possession of an inherited magic treasure. We cannot look down on him." Elder Zhao shook his head and opposed the suggestion. The woman's eyes glinted with a strange expression as she slowly said, "So it seems this person isn't weak. How about we pull him into our operation in the coming month? If things go smoothly, we can spend a bit to rope him in. If things goes unfavorably, we can just abandon him." That really is a good method, but from the recent conversation, he appears to know when it is appropriate to retreat despite appearing so youthful. It doesn't seem he will be easily taken advantage of. What is your grasp of the situation? Are you thinking about seducing him? As the old man spoke, he revealed displeasure. Lady Fan shot a glance at the old man. Then, while stifling laughter, her eyes revealed fawning. "He, Senior, you're jealous. Relax, I won't touch any man apart from you." She pulled away at her muslin shawl to reveal her extremely enchanting face. The old man originally appeared somewhat sickly, but upon seeing the woman, he was at a loss for words, and his cheeks flushed to an even deeper red. This scene left Lady Fan feeling very satisfied. "Senior, in order to protect me, you suffered a great injury. It is something that I will always remember." After saying this, Lady Fan spun her lithe, well-endowed body around and slid into the old man's embrace, caressing the old man's chest with her slender white hands. At this moment, Lady Fan's face revealed overflowing thoughts of love, and her eyes appeared moist to the point of overflowing with tears. Her alluring beauty was capable of even resurrecting dead men. The old man let out a breath as the woman's white hand climbed up his chest out of impatient desire. He then crudely responded by embracing her fragrant body with equivalently impure intentions. This scene caused the young woman, who still remained in the room, to deeply blush. She averted her gaze with a lowered head. "Lionel, how about you wait outside and report back once he returns?" Lady Fan softly whispered as if she had moaned. "Yes, of course," the young woman hastily responded as if she were being spared, and stepped out of the room. But before she even left the room, they still continued. "That young girl has become far more beautiful these past 2 years. How about you give me a few years to teach her a couple things, since good things shouldn't be given to outsiders?" "Bah, you're dreaming. I only kept her around because she was useful. I forbid you from laying your hands on her. Could it be that I—" Having clearly heard the two's flirtatious banter, the young woman sighed and left the room. Happy 400th chapter, guys. Hugh, we've made it so far. Thank you to the readers that kept up so far and my patrons, noted on the sidebar. Cheers to a new arc with Han Lee making use of his new core formation capabilities. Call out to my former TL, Gandalf Socks, my former editor, Cory Mist, my elusive proofreader Isver, and my current editor Barbant and Maxforce. Thank you, your support have helped me a great deal. Now another 2046 chapters to go. We're a little bit less than 20% of the way there. Ending note, Barbant's suggested title and an Easter egg. Chapter 401, Heaven Lightning Bamboo. Han Lee didn't fly back to his cave residence after leaving the tea house. Instead, he walked along the road and suddenly turned a corner into the rear of a nearby store. Afterwards, he closed his eyes and calmly stood in silence. A long while later, Han Lee frowned and opened his eyes. He had just attempted to stealthily use his spiritual sense to return to the tea house and listen in on what they said afterwards. However, he hadn't expected to be blocked by a layer of restrictions as he approached their room. These restrictions couldn't be considered to high quality and could be easily broken through with Han Lee's spiritual sense. However, it would cause far too much of a commotion and ruin his plan of stealthily spying on them. Since Han Lee wasn't able to forcefully continue, he withdrew his spiritual sense. It seems the exquisite sound sect isn't to be trifled with. They've left no holes to be exploited. Han Lee opened his mouth and spat out the inch-long green dagger and used it to fly back to his cave residence. After returning to his residence, Han Lee went to his hidden room and retrieved the storage pouch holding the demon beast materials. He then called out to Crooked Soul, having him accompany him back to the tea house for safety. The journey back and forth had taken quite a few hours. Fortunately, by the time Han Lee and Crooked Soul returned to the tea house, Lady Fan's subordinate, the middle-aged man, was anxiously waiting for him. Upon seeing Han Lee approaching, he immediately ran inside with a happy expression. Han Lee saw that he went back to report to Lady Fan and didn't seem to mind. He then calmly walked inside with Crooked Soul. By the time Han Lee arrived at their room, the young woman and the middle-aged man were respectfully waiting for him. "Elder Zhao and Lady Fan are awaiting you," the woman spoke with a careful, respectful expression. After she finished, she stole a curious glance at Crooked Soul. Without any intention of introducing Crooked Soul, Han Lee nodded his head and bluntly entered the room with Crooked Soul close behind him. The young woman hesitated for a moment, but she didn't dare to step forward and investigate him. Lady Fan had covered her face beforehand. Upon seeing Han Lee enter, her eyes lit up in a graceful welcome. "Senior Han has arrived quite quickly. I had believed you would have taken a moment more. This senior is—" Lady Fan's beaming smile froze after seeing Crooked Soul. "This is my good friend, Crooked Soul." After hearing of this matter, he wished to have a look. "I'm sure Lady Fan doesn't mind, yes?" Han Lee chuckled and de-emphasized Crooked Soul's presence. "Of course not. Please have a seat." Lady Fan took a good look at Crooked Soul's ugly face and his ice-cold expression for a moment before speaking with a sweet smile. She secretly rejoiced in her heart. Fortunately, they hadn't planned to carry out any foul play. Otherwise, they would have provoked a great enemy, given the appearance of his core formation associate. In addition, her intentions to rope in Han Lee only grew stronger. "The materials are all in here. Please take a look." Han Lee was straightforward. After taking a seat, he threw the 2 pouches containing the demon beast materials on the table. When Lady Fan saw this, she was unable to conceal her joy and expressed her thanks before picking up the storage pouch and examining them with her spiritual sense. Afterwards, she handed the pouch over to Elder Zhao. The old man calmly received the pouch and examined the items within for appraisal. This took some time because the quantity of materials were far too great in number. While this was happening, Lady Fan was chatting with Han Li while wearing a beaming smile and unconsciously made an inquiry about the material's origin. But as Han Li was someone of quick mind, he was able to deflect the question and give the woman no information. After a short amount of time, Elder Zhao finished checking the materials and used a voice transmission to give Lady Fan an estimate. After some silent deliberation, she lowered the price by 1/10 and offered it to Han Li. When Han Li heard this, he started muttering to himself, causing Lady Fan to somewhat worry. In order to ensure the deal went through, she gritted her teeth and hesitated for a moment before taking the initiative to raise the price by 5%. After hearing the new price, Han Li nodded his head and approved. Although he clearly understood the price given was a bit low, being able to sell off all of these items in a single instance was much to his satisfaction. When Lady Fan saw Han Li approve, she felt greatly relieved and handed over a storage pouch containing a small sum of mid-grade spirit stones. The deal was now finished, and both sides were satisfied. But as Han Li was about to take his leave, the woman casually said, "I've heard that Senior is looking for some exotic spirit bamboo. I happen to just acquire some information on this. Would Senior be interested in staying to listen?" Han Li's heart strongly stirred, and he couldn't help but turn around. At that moment, Lady Fan was looking at Han Li with a smile. Her beautiful eyes were concealing a peculiar glint. Lady Fan, an expert of bewitchment techniques, intended to take advantage of Han Li's shock and stealthily plant a seed deep in his heart. In the future, Han Li would unconsciously become deferential to her as a result. As Han Li met her gaze, he felt a concentrated feeling of attraction towards her. It was smothering and difficult to escape. As his mind had nearly succumbed to the pressure, a thought flashed through his mind like lightning: bewitchment technique. Suddenly, Han Li's heart trembled and his expression grew ice cold. Upon seeing Han Li's icy intent, Lady Fan's heart trembled and her bewitchment technique lost its effect. Fearful, she hastily thought to turn her gaze away, but for some unknown reason, her neck and skull had grown stiff, and she was unable to turn her gaze away. She wasn't even able to open her mouth. Cultivation backlash. Once Lady Fan recognized what was happening, she felt her heart drop and did her utmost to break free of Han Li's grasp. "What did you do to Left Envoy Fan?" When Elder Zhao saw that Lady Fan appeared amiss, his eyes coldly glinted and he thought to step forward. However, Crooked Soul then blurred, disappearing from his sight. The old man couldn't help but be alarmed upon his sudden reappearance at his side with a strange movement technique, not knowing whether or not he should take action. At that moment, Lady Fan's expression became heartbreakingly pitiful, begging Han Li to show her mercy as her struggle to break free had been fruitless. Humph! With a cold snort, Han Li released her from his icy gaze. The woman then hastily turned her gaze away as if she were being spared. But at the same time, she couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood and stain her shawl red. "Left Envoy Fan, are you?" Elder Zhao raised his brow upon seeing this and furiously glared at Han Li, wanting to attack. "Elder Zhao, don't get angry. Senior Han treated me leniently. I only suffered chi backlash. Spitting out only a bit of blood is already merciful." Lady Fan hastily stopped the old man from acting out of fury and said this with a wide smile. Having heard this, the old man's expression gradually softened and returned to normal. "I truly didn't think that Senior was an expert proficient in bewitchment techniques. I had impulsively attempted to test you. Please don't blame me too harshly. However, I really do know some minor information on the whereabouts of heaven-lightning bamboo." Having seen that Han Li's gaze was still harsh, the woman took the initiative to speak, afraid that Han Li would investigate the previous matter. Heaven-lightning bamboo. Han Li's ice-cold expression stirred upon hearing this. Heaven-lightning bamboo, the same that is known as one of the three great divine woods. Han Li was doubtful of what he heard, but his voice still contained a trace of excitement. Although he planned to use an exceptional bamboo to refine his magic treasure, he hadn't thought of being able to use one of the three great divine woods to refine it. But wasn't it said those three great divine woods have all gone extinct? Lady Fan took out a small jade bottle and swallowed a medicine pill that restored her pale complexion before replying with absolute certainty. "That's right. I have personally handled the item. It is definitely genuine." "Could it be that you've already sold it to someone else?" Han Li stared at the woman, and his tone grew cold once more. At the same time, he apprehensively thought, could it be this woman hasn't learned her lesson and wishes to use me to handle her dirty work? After a moment of hesitation, Lady Fan decided to give an explanation with an honest appearance. No. This item was originally to be auctioned off in Heavenly Star City. However, we didn't expect for a majority of our goods to be robbed during transport. Our sect has managed to find the hideout of our thieves and are inviting righteous Taoists to take care of them in a single blow. Chapter 402, Envoys of the Left and Right. It was stolen. Han Li's gaze flashed with distrust. Although Senior isn't convinced, this matter is completely true. Lady Fan then revealed a wry smile. 2 months ago, our store was undergoing a large transaction. The profit was such that our exquisite sound sect wouldn't have had to conduct business for another 10 years. Thus, our sect collected a large amount of materials and sent them off, escorted by our sect Master Wang and the majority of our experts. However, a group of masked cultivators intercepted our convoy. Techniques of their 6-core formation cultivators were profound and evil, and the remaining cultivators were proficient in cooperative techniques. Our sect master was overwhelmed and died at the scene, and the storage pouches holding the items were stolen. A majority of our ordinary sect disciples perished in the attack as well. Were it not for 2 of our elders throwing caution to the wind and using secret techniques that lowered their cultivation, they would have killed us all, and no one would have known. The woman's voice had turned gloomy, and her expression turned remorseful. It wasn't a trap set up by the buyer, Han Li instantly blurted out. That is impossible. Our buyer was a member of the 4 Elements Merchant Union. They have a flawless reputation. Why would they ruin their reputation over robbing such a minor amount of goods, given their strength? Lady Fan lightly shook her head and denied this with a pale face, revealing an appearance of frail powerlessness. Han Li coldly gazed on and didn't say anything. He didn't have the slightest intention of consoling the woman. In response to Han Li's indifference, Lady Fan could only softly put away her grief and continue her explanation. That small stalk of heaven lightning bamboo was the treasure of a small sect. However, the sect had declined extremely far and only had a single remaining descendant. As such, the single descendant had sold the item to our exquisite sound sect. My sect master had carried this item on his body and planned to auction it off at Heavenly Star City after the deal was concluded. We didn't expect it to be plundered as well. When my sect master was transporting these goods, he had conducted a minor trick on them, and we were able to quickly track down their hideout as a result. However, these thieves have quite a few core formation cultivators among them, and our sect doesn't have the strength to take them down. As a result, this meeting wasn't just about purchasing your goods. We were also assigned the responsibility to scout out high-level cultivators for assistance. Seniors, magic power is quite profound. If you are willing to help us, we wouldn't mind giving you the heaven lightning bamboo. The woman chose her words carefully before arriving at her original intention. Han Li's expression was indifferent when he heard this, but his eyes continuously shifted around as if he were thinking about something. When Lady Fan saw this, she knew Han Li was weighing the advantages and disadvantages, and she hurriedly attempted to make the deal sweeter. If Senior still feels the price is low, our sect is willing to gift an outstanding beauty to Senior as a servant. Not interested. Han Li bluntly rejected her without the slightest consideration. The woman immediately revealed disappointment in response. Han Li lightly exhaled and asked a question that greatly surprised the woman. Has the heaven lightning bamboo been refined? Can it continue to age? It hasn't been refined. The heaven lightning bamboo was carefully nurtured by that small sect for over 100 years. It can be further nurtured and continue to sprout out more stalks without a problem. Could it be that Senior doesn't wish to use it to refine a magic treasure and wishes to leave it behind for his descendants? However, the heaven lightning bamboo grows extremely slowly. After every 1,000 years, it only grows by only an inch. It is truly difficult to breed. The woman asked, baffled. Han Li didn't respond to her question, lowering his head in contemplation. Just when Elder Zhao started to appear impatient, Han Li finally came to decision and calmly said, in addition to the heaven lightning bamboo, we still require another item as payment. After all, Crooked Soul is taking action alongside me. That isn't a problem. Our sect finds these conditions acceptable. Lady Fan agreed to the conditions with a beaming smile as if she had no intention of arguing. Since this is the case, send someone to inform me at my cave residence when the time comes. Surely your esteemed sect should know where it is. Without waiting for Lady Fan to say anything more, he cupped his hands and quickly left with Crooked Soul, not allowing her any additional opportunities to use any of her bewitchment techniques. Han Li's blunt departure left Elder Zhao and Lady Fan looking at each other in dismay. Lady Fan's eyes revealed complicated emotions as her face continuously shifted between clear and gloomy. After returning to his cave residence, rather than quietly waiting for the exquisite sound sect to call on him, he visited a few of his core formation cultivator acquaintances and made a few inquiries about the exquisite sound sect. Surprisingly, they had all heard of this sect before. One of them even had previous transactions with them. According to what they said, the exquisite sound sect was acceptable and their business dealings were good. However, their sect had only had women in positions of power for generations. This included the position of sect master. The exquisite sound sect's strength couldn't be said to be powerful. Apart from the sect master, the only other high positions were the envoy of the left and the envoy of the right. As such, it was only natural that they would employ 2 or 3 guest elders as support. Among mid-grade powers, they could be considered to be among neither the best nor the worst. But even with their strength being nothing of note, they weren't to be easily provoked. This was because the female cultivators of the exquisite sound sect were each as beautiful as a flower and well-cultured. Those in power would often fight over their outstanding female cultivators to be their Tao companion. As such, they received quite a bit of both open and hidden support. However, what Han Li was most concerned about was that, while their reputation was decent, he heard that they had plotted a small number of malicious conspiracies to murder other cultivators. But what was most famous about the exquisite sound sect were their bewitchment techniques. There were a large number of male cultivators that had become completely infatuated with their sect's female disciples. After acquiring this information, Han Li felt that he now had a general understanding of the exquisite sound sect. After some consideration, it seemed that he would have to take this job as he was unable to resist the heaven-lightning bamboo. As such, ever since he had returned to his cave residence, he started to quickly craft grade 3 puppets without end. Half a month later, a sound transmission talisman flew into Han Li's hand. After Han Li took a look, he tranquilly arranged his items and then brought Crooked Soul along with his 2 blooded spiders out of his cave residence. When he arrived at one of Heavenly Star City's gates, the young woman named Lioner was waiting for him apprehensively. When she saw Han Li and Crooked Soul arrive, she hastily ran over to them with a smile and said, "Seniors, my mistress wishes for me to bring you to the island we're gathering at. We will then set off on our journey afterwards." Han Li nodded his head and wordlessly spit out his green brilliance dagger. After wrapping the girl in the dagger's light, he flew off. Crooked Soul turned into a streak of yellow light and followed after them. This seemed to be the young woman's first time using a magic treasure to fly. Between occasionally giving Han Li some directions, she continuously gazed at Han Li's swordlight with great curiosity. But whenever her gaze met Han Li's, she bashfully turned her head away. The young woman and Han Li were quite close within the swordlight, almost touching each other. If Han Li slightly lowered his head, he would be able to see her white, flawless neck and smell the woman's sweet fragrance, taking advantage of his minor amount of luck. The woman seemed to have noticed this, and her cheeks blushed a result, leaving Han Li feeling quite amused. He couldn't help but wear a mysterious smile. He had guessed that, since Lady Fan sent her personal servant to guide his way, she was attempting to use a genuine beauty to entrap him, as her bewitchment techniques had proven ineffective on him. With that thought, he inwardly sneered and presumptuously took a deep whiff of the young woman's scent, causing her to slightly tremble. Her delicate, white ears turned pink, and she appeared somewhat panicked. However, Han Li's imprudent action stopped there, and he didn't progress a single step further. The young woman eventually regained her calm and continued to give Han Li directions. An hour later, Han Li descended onto a small barren, nameless island. About 100 meters away from the mountaintop, in addition to Lady Fan and Elder Zhao, there were over a dozen people sitting in meditation or whispering amongst themselves. There were 5 core formation cultivators, and the others were late foundation establishment. It seemed that the exquisite sound sect had spent quite a bit of their influence to gather this many people. Upon seeing her servant arrive together with Han Li and Crooked Soul, Lady Fan couldn't help but reveal happiness and hastily walked over with light steps. "It is truly fortunate for our sect that you 2 seniors have agreed to come. Let me introduce you to the others." The woman's eyes appeared to be overflowing with emotion. She introduced Han Li and Crooked Soul to a core formation cultivator surnamed Meng, and 4 foundation establishment cultivators. But what was baffling was that, after Lady Fan introduced them to these people, as if in an attempt to demonstrate her power, she didn't introduce them to the others. Lady Fan looked at a pretty woman wearing lotus green clothing, and Han Li followed her gaze, realizing that the cultivators she hadn't introduced to them appeared to be affiliated with the green-clothed woman. The woman had long eyebrows, upturned eyes, and a tall, slender nose. Her elegant eyes seemed to conceal a baleful aura. From a single glance, one could tell that she held a position of authority. However, her appearance aroused a desire to conquer her among men. This woman coldly laughed after seeing Lady Fan, but she appeared slightly shocked upon seeing Han Li and Crooked Soul. She then turned around and whispered to a middle-aged cultivator behind her, not paying attention to Lady Fan in the slightest. "Who is she?" Han Li asked with a calm expression. Fan Jingmei gave a start before begrudgingly giving an answer. "Zhu Rutting, our sect's envoy of the right." Han Li couldn't help but take another glance at this woman, much to the displeasure of Fan Jingmei. Han Li didn't have any unbecoming thoughts towards this Zhu Rutting. He merely felt that the grace and appearance of this woman gave him a feeling of strong familiarity, and he couldn't help but sink into contemplation. Lady Fan grew sullen upon seeing this and turned to speak with Crooked Soul. However, Crooked Soul remained expressionless while she spoke and didn't utter a single word in response, leaving her even gloomier. Vetoed, the author is free to share his discretions.